Kim Ki-bong is a young student in his 20s who works part-time at a local convenience store in addition to his studies. He is not happy with this life, because every day repeats the previous one, making Kim bored. There is a strong jolt, knocking Kim's phone out of his hands. Kim decides to go outside and check out what's going on, suddenly noticing some terrifying monsters. Kim Ki-bong doubts the reality of what is happening, thinking that he is in a dream. The guy turns around at the sound behind him and sees the monster who noticed Kim. The student tries to escape from the monster but falls to the ground due to intense fear. The hero looks back and notices in horror that his lower body is separated from his upper half. It turned out that the monster that discovered Kim attacked the man with its colossal tentacles, severely maiming the guy. The last thing Kim sees before he dies is a city engulfed in flames. A strange rift appears between the separated parts of the boy's body, gradually absorbing the surrounding world and Kim. The main character finds himself in an empty world, which consists of various symbols. An unknown voice appears, addressing Kim as a player and saying that he has entered the awakening space. The voice speaks of the beginning of a certain awakening test, after which a large monster appears next to Kim in a quest to destroy it. The monster quickly attacks the main character, killing him. Despite dying at the hands of a monster, Kim comes back to life, just like in a computer game. Out of the corner of his eye, Kim notices his own body and vomits onto the floor. The monster attacks again, and the protagonist tries to escape from it. Kim doesn't have time to escape, and the monster cuts off his head with one of its limbs. After another death, Kim regenerates again and contemplates out loud killing the monster, but a voice tells him that it is impossible. Immediately after this, the voice explains to him the rules of this world, stating that Kim will be able to return back once he passes a certain test. The monster attacks Kim again with a beam from its mouth. Kim accepts the rules of the game and gains the skills and strength to defeat the monster. The main character rushes towards the monster to strike it. The monster dies after the first blow, and Kim is genuinely happy about his victory. Despite completing the quest, Kim is not returned to the real world. An unknown error occurs and a voice states that the player will not be able to leave the Trial of Awakening. The Trial of Awakening loops and the monster appears before Kim again, killing him over and over again. Due to an in-game error, Kim is stuck in this world for over a year, gradually losing his mind. Suddenly, Kim gets increased health points for fighting the monster, and thinks that the bug has finally been fixed. The system's voice directly states that Kim will never be able to leave this place, after which the monster kills him again. The protagonist spent the next 4 years trying to resist the monster, thereby increasing his characteristics. In the 10th year, Kim asked the system about the affairs on Earth and learned that only 12 days had passed there. Over the next 500 years, Kim stopped resisting, continuing to lose his mind after each death. Kim is tormented by thoughts about why he was taken to the artificial world, and in rage he fights off the monster's attack. Having lost control of his actions, the boy attacked the monster to vent his anger on it. 10 Earth years later, a portal appears in the sky above the city, from which Kim flies out after defeating the monster. For the student who had gained great power, 3,000 years had passed within the world he had left behind. During the time Kim was trapped inside another world, he became infinitely stronger than an ordinary human. Every day that Kim spent in the other world, he thought about what he would do after returning back. The first thing he wants to do is go home and check on his mother, but the house turns out to be completely destroyed. Suddenly, several military men approach the main character and ask him to leave the restricted area. When the guy asks about what happened, one of the soldiers explains that everyone died due to a monster attack 10 years ago. After the military man clarified that some had managed to evacuate, Kim furiously finds out the location of the sleeping people. Having let go of the soldier, the main character rushes to the shelter as fast as he can. The military is informed by radio that a new fault has been discovered right near the refugee settlement. The soldiers prepare for battle, realizing that they will not be able to defeat the monsters. Reinforcements do not reach the soldiers in time, driving them to anger and forcing them to hold out for as long as they can. As a plan, the commander orders the refugees to be used as human shields to prevent the monsters from leaving the cordoned-off area. The main character arrives at the scene and discovers that a rift is opening above the refugee camp. In an effort to protect her own mother, Kim defies military orders and goes to the location of the rift opening. The military, on orders from their commander, surround Kim, preventing him from going any further. Filled with anger, the boy orders the soldiers to step aside, and they obey, feeling his strength. Something from inside the rift tears apart the portal, breaking out into the real world. Finally, the huge monster widens the rift enough to step onto the ground with the smaller monsters. One of the monsters attacks Kim from behind, trying to kill him, but is instantly killed by the main character. One by one, the monsters attack Kim, trying unsuccessfully to finish him off. The main character deals with the attacking monsters with extreme ease thanks to the strength he has acquired. One of the soldiers went after Kim to stop him, but discovered that the main character had dealt with the monsters alone. A colossal monster that opened the rift attacks the soldier and Kim. Suddenly it stops, seeing the corpses of the remaining monsters. Seeing a notification from the system that the rift will be closed after killing this monster, Kim boldly heads towards it. Upon seeing the monster, the inhabitants of the refugee camp flee on the orders of a female soldier. The refugee girl stumbles and one of the surviving monsters rushes towards her. In an instant, Kim attacks the monster, ripping its mouth open and saving the refugees. After this, the main character asks the system to find his mother, and the system agrees to help him. After a short time, the system reports a search failure, forcing Kim to relive the past 3,000 years. The monster attacks the crowd of refugees with projectiles from its mouth, but Kim manages to fight them all off the city. With all its power and anger, the monster attacks the guy, trying to kill him. The main character does not retreat, but on the contrary counterattacks the monster, driven by the desire to avenge his own mother. In the place where the monster was, only ruins and an impressive crater remained. Kim, tired physically and mentally, turns around at the voice behind him and sees his mother. The sudden reunion causes both mother and son to burst into tears, quickly embracing each other. However, one of the monsters managed to survive and quickly attacked the main character's mother, piercing her right through and through right in the arms of her own son. Kim becomes hysterical, and his head is filled with thoughts that the power he received was useless due to the death of his mother. Falling to her knees at her mother's rump, Kim tries to reach her through her tears. Having spoken of her love, the mother dies in the protagonist's arms, and he screams hysterically over his loss. The commander and his subordinate discuss Kim a month later, destroying all the monsters in the most dangerous sectors. Realizing that Kim may lose control, the commander asks his subordinate to bring him the main character. At this time, the guy non-stop kills all the monsters that he manages to find. He fights fearlessly and mercilessly against hordes of monsters alone. After another battle, Kim sits in the rain with an emotionless face, as a female soldier, Lee Ji-yeon, shields him from the rain. The protagonist sits without an answer, and Lee tries to talk to him, but Kim interrupts her and tells her about her torment. After Ji-yeon asks her to relent, Kim looks at her with a look of anger and distrust before leaving her alone. Lee Ji-yeon begs Kim to come with her, promising that she will help him with his revenge. 6 months later, Kim, now a civil servant, visits his mother, who is on life support. Having explained himself to her body, he goes to his subordinates, giving them the order to advance to battle. In another battle, Kim and his squad completely exterminate the monsters, wiping them off the face of the earth. Sometime later, a man is drinking in one of the city's bars while listening to a report about Kim's work on the news. After some time, another man sits down next to him, and they start a conversation about the main character's actions. The second man directly states that Kim is a threat to their business, to which the first offers to eliminate the guy. In response to this, he receives a document and an order to recruit Kim. At this time, the main character's team arrives at the last rift, which must be destroyed in the current month. Ordering his soldiers to stay put, the guy takes to the sky, asking the system for the boss's location. While the scan is in progress, Kim single-handedly destroys the monsters one by one. After successfully completing the scan, the protagonist rushes towards the boss at full speed. Finally, a monster of monstrous size appears before the player, and once defeated, the rift will close itself. Kim's subordinates watch his battle and are inspired by him as a new rift opens behind them. Instead of monsters, a man suddenly jumps out of it and kills one of Kim's subordinates with a swing of his sword. At this time, a fierce battle between the boss and Kim continues, during which Kim becomes even stronger. Gathering all his strength, the protagonist attacks the boss to close the rift. With her new abilities, Kim tears the monster apart with a single blow. Near the corpse, Kim discovers a sphere, the purpose of which the system cannot describe. Meanwhile, the mercenary who was ordered to hire Kim is beating up his subordinates. Immediately after the mercenary deals with all the soldiers, Kim personally appears next to him. The mercenary tries to talk to the protagonist, but stumbles in horror when he sees Kim angrily walking towards him. In front of Kim, the mercenary feels like a victim in front of a predator, frozen in horror. The people around tried to intervene, but the nameless mercenary ordered them to remain calm and began to talk about a certain shield guild. It turns out that Kim is not the only player, and the shield guild is the largest guild for players. Kim asks if the shield guild is responsible for defending the refugee village. In response to the mercenary's positive answer, Kim hits him for the defeated subordinates and dead refugees. All the other mercenaries surrounding Kim rushed into battle and were quickly defeated. After some time, the guild director, who asked to recruit Kim, examines the fighters he beat up. Seeing that the mercenary who tried to recruit Kim is unconscious, the director injects him with a drug to wake him up. After the mercenary suddenly awakens, the director sits down opposite him and asks him to tell about what happened, addressing the mercenary named Beck. Beck despairingly reveals that Kim defeated them all single-handedly. In response to this, the director asks about the protagonist's attitude towards the guildmaster, but Beck does not give a precise answer. Realizing they can't take any chances, the director decides to send the killer to the vice foreman if he refuses to cooperate. Kim, fighting monsters alone, asks the system about the purpose of the sphere he found. The system is able to explain that by absorbing the sphere, the source of the rifts can be accessed, and Kim orders her to absorb the sphere. At this time in the city, an unknown person dressed as a magician asks people if they have seen anyone similar to Kim. However, because of his special drawing, everyone thinks he is crazy and refuses to help him. After absorbing the sphere, the system expands, and because of this, the unknown person is able to detect Kim from a distance. With the expansion of the system, Kim can now check player profiles and learn information about ordinary people. After returning to the city, the protagonist returns home, but feels that an unknown person is following him. After failing to analyze her pursuer, Kim deliberately allows herself to be caught. The pursuer does not show hostility towards Kim, and he tries to leave on a bus, but the unknown person teleports to him. At the same time, the director meets with the vice master of the guild who fought the monsters. The director suggests that the vice foreman eliminate Kim, and after some hesitation, he shows his interest. After some time, the vice master meets with the prime minister, having cut up her guards. In response to Vice Master Gu Sengren's barbed words, the prime minister and S-rank player Gu Sengren prepares for battle and summons his sword. She casts a spell and teleports herself and the vice master, whose name is Park Tarim, to a distant location. At this time, an unknown guy follows Kim to the checkpoint, but the military does not let him inside. Despite the ban, the stalker literally sticks to Kim's window and watches him, and then runs away. Gu Sengryong and Park Tarim fight in secret, and the vice president asks for Kim to be handed over to him. Thanks to Kim, the government stopped giving money to the Shield Guild, which prompted them to try to recruit the protagonist. The only way out for the Shield Guild is to kill Kim Ki-bong. Kim's subordinates catch the guy who was chasing him, even though he didn't put up any resistance. A conversation takes place between Kim and the unknown person, during which the pursuer talks about knowing the secret of Kim's strength and asks to take care of him. The vice captain states that in order for the boy to join the army, he will have to fight him. With the help of a special stone, Park returns back to kill the people dear to Gu, leaving her alone. A fight begins between the army vice captain and Kim's pursuer for the right to join the army. Suddenly, the guy shows extreme strength. To avoid an accident, Kim intervenes and stops the guy with one finger. Finally, the pursuer introduces himself as Kang Hui. Kim invites Kang to fight each other, and the boy agrees to demonstrate his abilities. The protagonist attacks Kang with his own kick, instantly sending him flying. During the fight, Kim tries to find out who Kang really is, but he does not answer and pushes the protagonist away. Immediately after this, Kang attacks Kim with magic, literally showering the protagonist with spells. Despite the boy's desperate attacks, Kim remains unharmed. Kan, realizing the difference in strength, tries to surrender, and the protagonist finally hits the guy, accepting him into his ranks. Vice Master Park kills the baby dragon, causing the elder monster to awaken and create the most dangerous rift. The director is behind this insidious plan, wanting to lure Kim Ki-bong into a trap. The director suggests that after killing Kim, they seal the dragon in a sphere, which instantly prompts Park to kill the baby dragon. Martial law is declared and many forces are drawn to the site of the opening of the fault. The state declares the situation extremely dangerous and evacuates civilians. Prime Minister Gu Sengren returns to the city by helicopter and orders a call to all players above level 100. Kim's team arrives at the rift, with many of the soldiers panicking. They try to enter the rift, but only the protagonist and Khan were able to get inside. Suddenly, Kim is attacked by Park Tarim, and at the last moment, the protagonist manages to raise a protective barrier. Despite this is the first time someone manages to injure Kim and make him bleed. In parallel to this, players of all levels are gathering to close the rift. After trying to avoid conflict, Kim still engages in combat with the Vice Master, but suddenly falls to his knees. The Shield Guild's director appears, looking at Kim triumphantly. At this time, Gu Sengren appears behind Kim's subordinates, stating that the barrier is the work of the Shield Guild. Inside the barrier, Park attacks Kim again and again with a special sharp sword, and the protagonist realizes that he fell to his knees due to Park's ability to reflect damage. Despite his life-threatening injuries, Kim continues to engage in dialogue with the Vice Master, shocking him. Kim deliberately risks his health and decides to test how long Park can fend off his blows. At this time, the awakened fire dragon tries to get inside the barrier, attacking it. Gu Sengren wants to get inside the barrier, but her subordinate reminds her that she must remain outside for the raid to be successful. Finally, Park also starts to bleed due to Kim damaging the Vice Master's sword with his destructive attacks. Park begs the protagonist to stop, but he finally breaks the sword and beats up the Vice Master. The director orders them to leave the battlefield in order to appear later and use the sphere, which was nicknamed the Daystone. After the director and his subordinates teleport away, Kim and Kang head off to battle the fire dragon. The barrier is almost completely destroyed, and the dragon is at risk of breaking free. Gu Sengren contacts Kim Ko-bong and asks him to buy him some time. Despite bleeding heavily, Kim agrees to protect the city and his mother. The fire dragon attacks the heroes with flames, but Kang protects himself and Kim. Kim praises Kang for his outstanding abilities, but he is sent flying by the monster's blow. Kang passes out and Kim begins to fight the monster one-on-one. Despite the difference in size, Kim fights desperately and strives to inflict as much damage on the monster as possible. However, the monster manages to cripple Kim, and he gradually loses health. However, despite his wounds, the protagonist attacks the monster with renewed vigor to buy time for the people behind the barrier. Kim's blow is so powerful that it knocks the monster down. The monster charges up another attack and shoots a gout of flame from its mouth. The protagonist dodges the monster's attack, but the flames head straight towards the defenseless civilians behind the barrier. Suddenly, people see a man appear in front of the flames who turns out to be Khan. Having come to his senses, Kim's assistant blocks the dragon's attack, protecting the locals from death. The protagonist sincerely praises Khan and continues his fight with the dragon. Each side charges up their strongest attacks, and Kim rushes forward to strike the monster. Time after time, the main character attacks and finally destroys the strongest monster, closing the rift. Thanks to this, he further increases his strength and characteristics. After death, energy began to emerge from the dragon's body, threatening to destroy everything around it. The Prime Minister decides to destroy the barrier and enter inside with the assembled heroes and soldiers. Seeing the ash falling from the sky from the explosion of the dragon's body, Gu Sengren hurries inside. She desperately tries to find the main character, but only finds his new partner, Khan. Seconds later, they find an exhausted Kim together, and the Prime Minister praises him for a job well done. The Shield Guild director learns of what happened, but silently leaves, pondering his next steps. The next day, the Vice Master of the Shield Guild and his subordinates are arrested, and the director is put on the wanted list. The next day, the Prime Minister holds a conference to introduce Kim Ko-bong to the public. Kim goes on stage and is shocked by the large number of journalists. He introduces himself, but due to great embarrassment, he does so sweating, shyly, and with a trembling voice. After leaving the journalists, Kang is glad that his merits were also noticed, but Kim asks him to be quiet. A female soldier named Lee Jin, who recruited Kim, explains that they want to conduct a test on the protagonist's body. A hero girl arrives on site to help with the test. The lieutenant demonstrates new testing equipment, and the heroine volunteers to take the test first. She passes the test successfully, and Kim starts testing after her, but breaks the device on the first try. The device for testing the protagonist's physical attacks could not withstand a punch, and the mana testing device broke as soon as Kim Ki-bong filled it with energy. Immediately after the testing, Kim, along with the people who tested him, goes to give an interview. He became nervous when he tried to say his age due to traumatic memories, but the system came to his rescue. In response to a journalist's question, Kim explains that he destroys monsters because of the loss of his family when the rift opened. The TV viewers sincerely sympathize with him, and the girl hero begins to cry, because she also lost her family because of monsters. Suddenly it turns out that they are alive and watching the broadcast, discussing their own daughter. After the interview, they want to detain Kim for a conversation, but he wants to leave and continue cleaning up the rifts. Lieutenant Lee Ji, who promised to help him with revenge, goes with him and Kang to the research base. It turns out that at this base the military conducted detailed studies of the faults. Scientists believe the spheres called daystones may be blocking the faults. Lee Ji tells Kim that he will have to go into the rift along with the other two players. Kang asks to help Kim, but he refuses him. After some time, a girl heroine named Yui arrives to the guys near the rift. Along with her, an unknown swordsman approaches the heroes and introduces himself as a guildmaster named Cheon Yu Bin. It turns out that 10 years ago he, together with Prime Minister Gu, saved South Korea. Although Lee Ji trusts Yue and Cheon, it is Kim she asks to take the Daystone. Kim sends Kang to the squad, and the remaining 3 heroes enter the rift. Guildmaster Chan notes that during the entire time the heroes were in the rift, they did not encounter a single monster. The team decides to make a stop for the night, as it is very difficult to move around in the dark in this rift. At this time, an alarm sounds at the headquarters of Kim's soldiers. The deputy commander with whom Khan fought for entry into the army is informed of the sudden collapse of a fault in Gyeonggi province. Despite the fact that without the main character the soldiers will definitely die, they still decide to gather their forces. The soldiers decide to turn to Kang for help, and he does not agree until he is told that Kim will be proud of him. Meanwhile, Kim tries to find the monsters using the system, but he fails. The hero understands that if he continues to follow Yui and Chan, he will not receive the Daystone, and therefore suddenly breaks ahead. With the help of the system, Kim finds the sphere and goes to it. As soon as the main character steps on the ground near the stone, monster defenders begin to appear nearby. Seeing the battle from afar, Yui and Cheon rush to help Kim. However, upon quickly arriving at the scene of the battle, they find Kim surrounded by the corpses of monsters. The sphere is surrounded by a barrier of energy, and Kim instantly destroys it, unlike Yui. As soon as Kim touches the sphere, a dark energy appears that consumes everything around it. In the outside world, an army of soldiers is gathering, ready to fight other rifts. Kim's deputy commander decides that Kang is the only person capable of replacing the main character. One by one, the heroes in the rift wake up inside the cave they were teleported to. All the heroes who find themselves far from each other are attacked from ambush by wolf monsters. Each of the heroes, despite their fear, tries to defeat the formidable monsters that have appeared. After defeating the wolves, Kim requests the system to search for Yui and Cheon, receiving their location. One by one, the wolves who had prepared the ambush die from the guildmaster's swift attacks. Realizing that Yui is very vulnerable without mana, he rushes to look for her. Yui, having drunk a magic potion, is having a hard time holding back the attacks of the monsters. Wanting to show off her strength, she begins to fight even more fiercely and shower the monsters with magic until she runs out of mana. One of the wolves survives her attacks and attacks the girl, but Chan saves her from death. Having regained her strength, Yui discusses with Chan the strangeness of everything that is happening. Assuming that there might be a boss in this cave, the heroes decide to defeat him in order to return home. Noticing a light coming from around the corner, Yui and Cheon hide and see menacing and dangerous monsters. Cheon says with disgust that he has never seen anything like this in his life. Smelling the scent of human flesh, the monster began to speak, shocking the heroes. While they were trying to digest what had happened, the disgusting monster found them and began to attack. Chun strikes the monster's mouth with all his might, but he fails to even scratch it. Yui cast a spell and tied up the monster, allowing Chan to escape death. The team notices that there are at least 2 more of the same monsters nearby, communicating with each other. Cheon realizes that they can only win as long as the other monsters don't enter the fight, so he asks Yui to strengthen him. Having increased his strength many times over, Cheon launches lightning-like attacks. Although he manages to wound the monster, he notices that its blood is similar to human blood. Cheon Yubin is attacked from behind, but he manages to dodge at the very last moment. Realizing that Yui has no mana left, the guildmaster rushes into battle in hopes of defeating the 2 remaining monsters. Kim realizes that it will take him too long to get to his comrades on foot, so he decides to break through the walls of the cave. With the last of their strength, Chun and Yui fight the monsters, trying to hold out as long as possible. The guildmaster is almost hit by a monster, but Yui manages to save him by attacking the monsters with magic. Suddenly, one of them starts talking and declares that heroes are not like those who came before them. The creature calls itself a representative of the new humanity and demonstrates its true power. Cheon and Yui watch as the creature devours its own kind. The exhausted heroes stand before a giant monster, assembled from the bodies of 3 monsters. Cheon asks Yui to strengthen him one last time to perform one more attack. Just after the guildmaster rushes into battle, Kim Ki-bong breaks through the cave wall. As soon as he appears on the battlefield, he engages in a fight with the monster, helping Chan. With a lightning-fast series of strikes, he turns the monster into a pile of meat in an instant. Standing next to the monster's body, Kim senses the energy of the Daystone within it. Chun approaches the still-moving monster to finish it off, but Kim stops the guildmaster. The protagonist asks the system if it is possible to absorb the energy of the Daystone in the monster's body, and after an affirmative answer, absorbs it. Remembering that they haven't met the boss of this rift yet, the team decides to continue on their way. After some time, they find a lying moth boss, which is radiating the energy of contaminated Daystone remains. As the team gets closer to the monster, they see that it is so badly injured that it asks to be killed. It turns out that monsters, like humans, can feel emotions. The moth boss that was always supposed to appear in such a rift ends up wounded and bound by magic in an unknown cave. Yui suggests that to create such a powerful spell, one must be at A or S rank, and the guildmaster notes that the wounds on the monster's body are done very precisely and clearly, as if only the necessary parts were separated from the body of a moth. The team comes to the conclusion that this gap was artificially caused by someone. Kim Ki-bong approaches the boss and absorbs the energy of the Daystone, killing the monster. Immediately after this, a portal opens to exit the rift, and Kim promises to tell everything a little later in response to Cheon's gaze. As soon as the 3 heroes emerge from the rift into the real world, they are caught by soldiers. The worried lieutenant reports that Kim, Cheon, and Yui have been missing for 2 whole months since entering. Kim notes that the same time anomaly that was at the beginning of his journey is repeating itself. The team returns to the research center, where they later meet with the Prime Minister. After Yui and Cheon leave the meeting, Kim shows Gu Sengryong the Daystone. After talking with the Prime Minister, Kim leaves the base and meets his exhausted squad led by Kang. Suddenly, the system tells him that all of them have awakened as players. After some time, however, the system corrects itself, assigning all members of his team a separate power category. The deputy commander says that they have been fighting monsters since Kim went missing. Inside, he worries that if Kim had not stopped Kang during the training fight, he would have been killed by him. Seeing Khan's colossal strength, the second-in-command named Han wants to become just as strong. After some small talk, Khan assures the team of soldiers that they can be made stronger. After some time, he leads the warriors to a strange waterfall in the woods. Under Khan's leadership, the squad begins grueling training to become stronger. After finishing the story of how they gained their powers, Deputy Commander Han asks Kim to allow them to participate in battles. Kim, however, assures the guys that he always believed in them. At this time, an unknown person, completely covered by clothes, looks at photographs of Yui, Cheon, and Kim. 3 people hidden in the darkness come to him, one of whom he addresses as a witch. She assures that the trio of heroes should not have gotten out of the cave, and then says that she will go to Korea. At this time, a military convoy is transporting the corpse of a fire dragon. Immediately after the first car enters the tunnel on the road, it collapses. The truck tries to leave the tunnel but suddenly meets another truck in it, which could not have gotten there earlier. The soldiers decide to check out the strange truck and approach it, but are attacked by enemy forces. The attackers hijack a truck and pretend to be soldiers, announcing by radio that they are about to exit the tunnel. At this time, Prime Minister Gu Sengrin is giving a speech to the public. Suddenly, she feels that all the people around her are under the influence of a powerful hypnosis spell. A girl in a robe comes out to her, to whom the unknown person addressed as a witch. It turns out that she is the master of the Shield Guild, Pak. An argument ensues between the girls, after which Pak disappears and dispels the hypnosis spell. Gu Sengrin orders her subordinates to cancel all scheduled meetings and convene a security council. At this time, Kim watches as his soldiers clear a low-level rift without the help of the protagonist. One of his subordinates quickly reports to Kim that the hero needs to return to headquarters. According to the soldier, the fire dragon's corpse was captured by unknown forces. The Prime Minister, generals, officials, and Kim himself gather at the headquarters. During the discussion, it turns out that Guildmaster Pak has become much stronger, having taken the entire airport under her hypnosis. It also turns out that video surveillance of the truck with the fire dragon's corpse was lost. Gu Sengrin tasks Kim Ki-bong with pursuing the Shield Guildmaster. Meanwhile, the rest of Kim's team is tasked with assisting the military in retrieving the corpse of the fire dragon. To assist Kim, a counterintelligence and national defense agent, Ku-ju-a, is assigned. It turns out that Ku is a heroine nicknamed the Tamer, who earned her job by saving people in one of the battles alone. After some time, Kang chats with Kim, but when he sees Ku, he gets scared of her and hides behind the main character's back. It turns out that the girl knows about a certain secret of Khan's, which, however, they do not speak about out loud. At this time, the Vice Master of the Shield Guild, Park Tarima, is being held on the prison island. Outside, several unknown men in robes approach the prison guards. They are led by the Shield Guild Master Pak, who has come for her younger brother, who turns out to be Park. An alarm sounds in the prison and the guards fight the Shield Guild. The Guildmaster easily deals with the defending soldiers, not sparing them. Players come to the aid of the military, blocking Pak's hypnosis magic and releasing combat drones. After some time, the door to Park's cell is knocked off its hinges, and the younger brother is reunited with his older sister. Later, Kim and Ku arrive at the prison island, but see the burnt ruins of its walls. The agent orders a search for survivors to begin, but Kim knows through the system that no humans have survived and reports this to Ku. They walk down one of the corridors where they tried to stop the Guildmaster, discovering the corpses of players and soldiers. Ku, gifted with the skill of taming animals, summons prison rats and communicates with them. The summoned animals tell the agent that the people who committed the massacre have left the prison grounds towards the south. Park tries to understand Pak's plans after the escape, but she is in no hurry to share her thoughts. However, she puts pressure on her younger brother, suggesting that he punish all of South Korea. Her brother takes a few steps back in fear and timidly says that he is not able to defeat Kim Ki-bong. He begs his sister to go abroad and hide there, but Pak doesn't even want to listen to him. Trying to find the escapees, Ku turns to the seagulls and finds out that they are hiding not far from here. Kim tries to find out details about the Guildmaster, and Ku reveals Park's ruthlessness. Because of her cruelty, many innocent citizens began to die in order to kill monsters and increase the Pak's power. Kim and Ku decide to head to a nearby hill to a dilapidated warehouse where the escapees are hiding. Using the system, Kim scans the area and reports that in addition to Park and Park, there are 10 more accomplices inside. While discussing the plan, Kim comes to the conclusion that it is better not to attack head-on in order to avoid deaths and preserve as much information as possible. They make their way into the warehouse but are discovered by 2 people recruited by Pak. Ku wants to deal with them herself and summons the cat with the help of magic. At this time, an operation to find the corpse of the fire dragon is underway, and Khan tries to find it using smell. However, the military cannot take him seriously and openly mock him. Despite the ridicule, they have no choice but to trust Kanu. The summoned Ku cat beats up the 2 attackers, throwing one of them towards Park and Pak. Kim Ki-bong and Ku-ju-ai slowly walk out to them, accompanied by the summoned beast. After a brief verbal altercation, Park reveals the Hearthstone, and Ku hastily orders the cat to attack the Guildmaster. However, suddenly her accomplices transform into monsters and instantly tear the animal into small pieces. Kim notes that these monsters are an exact copy of those he discovered in the cave. The creatures quickly attack Ku, but Kim Ki-bong tears them apart. Immediately after, Kim attacks Pak, but she manages to use the Hearthstone. Kim and Ku, although they miss the escapees again, decide to continue the pursuit. The departed Park and Pak are teleported to the province of Gyeonggi, where the rift was occurring. Pak looks down at his hand in panic and notices that in a short moment Kim was able to inflict a wound on her. The wound turns out to be so serious that the older sister vomits blood. Park is genuinely worried about his sister and suggests that she take a rest, but she insists that it is her brother who should be resting. Reluctantly, the brother agrees. leaving his sister alone on the roof of a high-rise building. Pak senses a presence and asks the person to appear before her. This man turns out to be the director, and Pak asks where he has been for all this long time. The director says that all this time he was preparing to be able to conduct calm activities, since the city is being militarized. Park casually asks the director to tell her about Kim Ki-bong, and the director tells her about his attempts to recruit and kill the hero. The girl does not believe the director's words that Kim is not interested in money and power. Park is sure that Gu Sengren offered Kim something in exchange for his help and protection. The guildmaster casts a giant hypnosis spell and takes control of all the people around the building. At this time, Khan smells the corpse of a fire dragon and points to the city she is in. Suddenly catching a scent nearby, Khan orders the column to stop and rushes to search for the target. Suddenly, the soldiers who followed him were attacked from an ambush. Deputy Commander Han protects the soldiers with his new powers. Khan quickly enters into battle with the people who attacked them. The military, who had hitherto treated Kim's unit with humor, are beginning to take them seriously. Khan and the soldiers manage to neutralize several criminals, who turn out to be former members of the Shield Guild. At the same time, they take syringes with an unknown liquid and inject it into their necks. Criminals are rapidly turning into massive monsters, ready to kill everyone around them. Without wasting a second, Khan rushes into the battle and attacks the monsters that appear. Khan commands that only the transformed monsters be taken prisoner in order to obtain information. At this time, Yui broadcasts to her fans and ends it after a while. She checks her phone and notices that another streamer named Chin Ta hasn't contacted her for a collaboration. After some thought, Yui decides to find her on her own. Finally, after a fierce battle, Han and his allies capture the former members of the Shield Guild. One of the soldiers approaches him and says that they have finally managed to find the missing truck. When they approach the car, however, they do not find the corpse of the fire dragon. After ordering the imprisoned monsters to be moved to a temporary headquarters, Han and Khan decide to continue searching for the corpse by its scent. At this time, a new fault appeared in the Killa Swamp. Cheon Yu-bin fights the monsters that appear alone, furiously cutting them down with his swords. However, he is haunted by thoughts of how much stronger Kim is than Chan. A huge, multi-armed monster appears before him, and Chan rushes into battle without delay. A fast-paced battle ensues between them, in which they exchange blows with their swords. After a short time, the monster falls dead, having lost many parts of its body. Despite his confident victory, Chun is almost in a state of panic, realizing that Kim is many times stronger than him. Chan's charges approach him and ask if everything is okay, but the guildmaster does not dare to share his worries. After this, he is informed that several guild members from the city of Sihong have not been in touch for several days. Chun realizes that the disappearance of several people cannot be a coincidence, and together with his wards sets off to search for them. Meanwhile, a team of researchers arrives to Ku and Kim, studying the area after using the Hearthstone. The heroes discuss where Pak and Park's subordinates might have moved the fire dragon's corpse. However, Kim Ki-bong doubts that the reason for stealing the corpse was to get money for it. Suddenly, Kim receives a call from Kang, who says that he has found the location where the enemy is hiding, and that this location is very close to the city of Sihong. Kim states that he will go there and hangs up, after which he discusses Kang with Ku. The girl asks not to trust Kanu, but deliberately does not say the reason for mistrust, and changes the topic to searching for the enemy. Suddenly, the team of researchers is attacked by monsters near the heroes. In an instant, Kim deals with them and without wasting a minute suggests setting off on a journey. At this time, the entire city finds itself under the hypnosis of the master of the Shield Guild, Pak. On the roof, she meets with her loyal followers, each of whom is a member of the Shield Guild. After a short conversation, Pak brazenly throws several syringes containing a serum capable of turning a person into a monster onto the floor. When asked by her subordinates, the girl calmly orders them to inject the serum into themselves. After some hesitation, the subordinates obey and administer the drug internally. Laughing hysterically, Pak praises his subordinates in his arrogant and impudent manner. She declares that with the corpse of the fire dragon, they will create a legion of monsters and destroy the country that has renounced them. All this time, Park hid behind a small building on the roof and watched his sister's actions, shocked. At this time, Yui continues to search for her friend who suddenly disappeared. The taxi driver who is driving the girl talks to her and finds out that it was she who saved his son's life, and leaves her his contact information. Arriving in Sihong, Yui notices the empty streets of the city in the middle of the day. Seeing a silhouette in the alley between the houses, she rushes to pursue him. Walking a little further, she notices a multitude of people who seem to have merged with the monsters into one. At this time, the military monitors the situation from their operational headquarters. One of them notices that an unidentified flying object suddenly appears on the radar. However, the signal from the object disappears as quickly as it appeared. A little later, the signal appeared and disappeared several more times, which completely confused the military. It turned out that the cause of the signal was Kim Ki-bong, who was flying in this manner with Kuju Ai. Yui watches the infected people in shock, and her automatic shield activates, protecting her from the infection that turned the people into monsters. Certain that there is a source of infection nearby, Yui rushes through the crowd of infected to search. At this time, Kim and Koo practically reach the outskirts of Sihyung. Having landed within the city limits, the system notifies Kim of some abnormal sign. According to the system, the city is overflowing with magical power. An unknown magic is spreading throughout the city along with hypnosis magic. Realizing that Pak is behind all this, Kim and Koo set out to find her. When exposed to the virus, Kim develops immunity, and Koo takes a special immunity potion. After some time, they meet infected people and confirm the idea that they are turning into monsters. The system notifies that people can be saved by destroying the source of infection, so the team passes the infected without touching them. Kim flies into the air to survey the area and is attacked by several monsters. Almost instantly, he tears them to pieces, not stopping short of his target. Landing on the roof, Kim uses the system to calculate Park's location. The system detects a main and 4 auxiliary devices for distributing magic throughout the city. In addition, the system explains that the main power supply can only be shut off by simultaneously destroying all auxiliary devices. In the system's report, Kim sees that Yui, Cheon, Koo, Kong, and his subordinate soldiers were not hypnotized. At this time, Yui finds a shelter of surviving people, who tell her about everything that happened. Yui tries to report what happened on the internet, but she can't get a connection. At the same time, the shelter is attacked by infected people, which greatly frightens the survivors. Yui uses a shockwave spell and throws the infected out of the building without causing them any major harm. She orders the healthy people to get their masks ready and run to another building to find shelter. Yui herself somehow manages to dodge the car that suddenly flew towards her. The huge monster that had thrown the vehicle slowly approached Yui and spoke to her. After exchanging some barbed words, the monster throws a huge pillar towards the heroine. Using special magic, Yui destroys the pole that was flying at her, and then the monster throws another car at her. Dodging, she creates a huge fire spell and hits the monster with all her might. After some time, when the smoke from the explosion clears, Yui notices that only ashes remain of the monster. Hearing a sound behind her, she turns around and prepares to fight again, but the source of the noise turns out to be Xian and his soldiers. While discussing the current situation, they sense the presence of the enemy and prepare for battle. However, instead of an enemy group, they encounter Kang, Han, and Kim's subordinate soldiers. Han explains to the assembled allies that everything that is happening is the work of the Shield Guildmaster Park Yu-rim. Kim and Koo arrive at the meeting place, and the protagonist explains the plan of action to the allied forces. According to his plan, his allies must simultaneously disable all 4 auxiliary devices for the distribution of magic. The squads move into position, and Khan's squad is the first to encounter the enemy. One of Pak's subordinates, who took the serum, sends Kang flying and appears before Han and his soldiers. Khan returns to his allies, and the monster, angry at the barbed phrases addressed to him, rushes into battle. At the same time, Cheon fights against another of Park's subordinates who is protecting the auxiliary device. A fierce battle begins between them, with each side fighting extremely fast and fiercely. Kim Ki-bong single-handedly deals with the crowds of monsters attacking him. After some time, he meets the sword-wielding Park Tarim on his way. Unexpectedly for the protagonist, Park takes out the transformation serum and breaks it, hoping to stop Kim with his own powers. At this time, Yui finds one of the auxiliary devices, which at first glance no one is guarding. She is ambushed by a girl assigned by Pak to guard the device, who attacks her with fire magic. Despite the colossal power of the attacks, Pak defends himself against them with the help of defensive magic. On the other side of town, Koo fights a member of the Shield Guild who has turned into a monster. The girl summons a horde of monsters to help her in order to end the threat. Even if he's weaker, Park Tarim still risks his life and fights Kim Ki-bong. The protagonist, however, deliberately tries not to cause serious damage to Park and mostly avoids his attacks. Leaving his opponent powerless, Kim asks Park why he didn't turn into a monster, and then tramples him into the ground. At this time, the director and Pak discuss what is happening in the city, standing on one of the roofs. The director advises the guildmaster to be extremely careful in her fight with Kim, but she stubbornly resists his advice. She decides to set the people she transformed on Kim, checking whether he will maim innocent people. Finally arriving at Pak's place, Kim is attacked by her, and is forced to intercept the attack to prevent civilians from being harmed. He manages to deflect the attack towards Pak, almost hitting her. Initially frightened for a moment, she jumps off the roof into a crowd of infected people, intending to engage in battle. The only thing Kim Ki-bong asks Park for before the battle is not to beg him for mercy. Not taking the protagonist's words seriously at all, Pak transforms, taking on the features of a monster. Immediately after this, she orders all the infected around her to kill Kim. At this point, Kang fights with Pak's subordinate, trying to avoid his most powerful attacks. Attempting to counterattack, Khan is captured and thrown to the ground by the monster. The monster begins to beat Khan's immobilized body over and over again, trying to finish him off. Khan, the second in command, tries to save Khan but is thrown into a nearby building. Wanting to stop the monster, Khan rises and launches an attack, drawing the enemy's attention to himself. Slowly, Khan transforms, revealing that his secret was a power similar to that of a monster. In battle, Kim uses a new skill, causing the civilians who attacked him to retreat in fear. The power of the new skill is so strong that Puck falls to his knees before it. Overcoming his fear, Puck slowly rises into the air, determined to finish off the protagonist. Using magic, she lifts hundreds of rocks and shoots them at Kim with monstrous speed. Thanks to his speed, however, he avoids any damage. Enraged, Puck creates a dark sphere next to her and fires a powerful beam of energy from it, which still cannot harm Kim. He openly mocks Puck's attempts, calling her magic tricks and goading her into performing more pointless attacks. Not one of the hundreds of powerful attacks inflicts even a scratch on the main character. Having charged his powers, Kim attacks Puck without holding back. The blow is so powerful that the guildmaster's arm is torn to pieces and her body is thrown to the ground. As soon as Kim gets down to the girl, she quickly regenerates her limb and returns to the fight. At this time, the mutated Khan pierced the body of the auxiliary device's defender. Both monsters insult each other, after which Khan kills his rival. Kim doesn't spare Park for a second, scraping her face against the asphalt and throwing her into a pile of rocks. Grabbing her by the neck, Kim reminds her that she is responsible for the incident at the refugee settlement where his mother was. Ignoring Park's pleas, the protagonist declares that he will kill her in the most brutal way in the world. Seizing the moment, the Shield Guildmaster tries to escape from his opponent and absorb a piece of the fire dragon's corpse that generates the virus. Kim is unable to stop her, and she absorbs the dragon's power, causing a blast wave of enormous force. When the smoke clears, Kim sees her new altered silhouette, reminiscent of a demon. Cheon is still fighting for the auxiliary device with one of Park's henchmen who injected him with the serum. Neither Chon nor his opponent can get past each other, and their fight is always on equal terms. Chun realizes that time is short, so he decides to use a trick and let himself be attacked. After taking damage, the guildmaster takes his opponent by surprise and slits his throat. Chon manages to win only because he put his own life on the line. Kim watches as Park transforms, leaving nothing human left. He tells her that she has completely betrayed her humanity, which forces the monster to make its first attack. The battle between them becomes so serious that Kim's allies, scattered throughout the city, can see the fight from afar. The system reminds that by killing the fire dragon, Kim deals more damage to dragon creatures, which now includes Pak. After a powerful blow, Pak's health is less than 1% of the total. At first thinking about finishing off Pak completely, Kim remembers the device that he needs to destroy at the same time as everyone else. Trusting his allies, Kim touches the device and destroys it. At the same time, each of the main character's partners does his part of the job, destroying objects. Once completed, Khan transforms back into a human, hiding his monster appearance. After the magical devices are destroyed, the city quickly returns to normal. The contaminated pollen disappears, and the sky is no longer red. The director is the first to reach Park's body, dragging Park Tarim towards her. For the first time, the sister approaches the director, James, but he tells her that she must take responsibility for the mission's failure. James bends down to Puck's body and rips out of her chest a shard of the fire dragon's corpse that gave her power. A few seconds later, Puck dissolves before his younger brother's eyes. James ignores Park's desperate cries and takes out the hearthstone to leave the area. He freezes and turns back in horror, horrified to find Kim Ki-bong already standing behind him. To avoid instant death, James uses unknown magic to teleport himself a distance away. After James materializes, a conversation begins between him and the protagonist, during which Kim asks to return the shard to him. James deliberately stalls for time and openly teases Kim, forcing him to attack the director. He, however, easily manages to avoid the protagonist's deadly blow thanks to his magic. James offers Kim to side with him, but he quickly refuses and attacks. He grabs the director by the neck and lifts him off the ground, forcing James to make his next move. At this time, rescue operations are being carried out throughout the city. The Prime Minister arrives in the city, but she has not been aware of what is happening all this time due to the magical veil. Gu Sengren understands that such magic could not dissipate on its own, and therefore strives to personally sort everything out. After some time, she finds the wounded Yui, who tells the Prime Minister what happened. Both girls turn around at the sounds of an unexpected fight that broke out between James and Kim. At this time, Cheon Yubin drags two wounded subordinates along with him. He meets Agent Ku and refuses her request to help him with the wounded. Immediately after, he, along with Ku and the surrounding doctors, notices a new fight between Kim and James in the distance. At this time, an unknown person who had secretly met with Pak is looking through some documents. He is interrupted by Kim, who has managed to open the portal and shows the director's beaten body. The protagonist promises to destroy all of James's allies, who call themselves the New Humanity. But this only makes the man opposite him laugh. In response, the unknown person reveals his location, challenging Kim Ki-bong. After this, the portal closes and Kim, left alone for a short time, finally meets up with his allies. Kim also meets with the Prime Minister, who praises all the soldiers for the work they have done. The heroes decide to finish the job in the city, but the president suddenly appears and takes this responsibility upon himself. He explains that he was unable to arrive quickly due to a law that prohibits teleportation for presidents. After talking with the Prime Minister, the president personally meets the main character and shakes his hand. He notices a grief-stricken Park and orders his arrest. The president realizes that this time Korea has been subjected to a terrorist attack, not a rift, and so he and Kim decide to destroy the villains. Cheon and his charges are at the hospital when Ui, Kang, and Koo visit them. Cheon Yubin says he is going to Hong Kong but does not explain the reason. At this time, the president, prime minister, and Kim meet in the presidential bunker, and the head of state declares that it is Kim who must finish off the enemies. Prime Minister Gu asks who will defend the country's territory, causing the president to burst into laughter. He relieves Kim of his post as captain of the special forces clearing the rifts, giving him the post of commander-in-chief of the special forces. The president tells Kim that South Korea will help him in any way it can. He and his subordinates bow their heads to the protagonists in gratitude for his help in defending the country. In the city, search and rescue operations continue for citizens affected by Pak's actions. At this time, an unknown guy, disguised as a tourist, is watching the military base. He contacts other people on the radio and discusses Kim's imminent departure. The tamer reports that informants from every country have gathered around their military base, as expected. The Prime Minister notes out loud that there is no country that would want to let the strongest man into its territory without controlling him. After some time, 2 cars leave the military base and are pursued by an agent disguised as a tourist. Not far from the airport, military vehicles are stopped by other agents pretending to be bad drivers. At this time, the travel agent looks at the passengers in the car and sees that Kim is not there. Once at the airport, the pursuer tries to find Kim and decides to follow his team, thinking that Kim will catch up with them later. Suddenly, the agent receives a message on his phone that the mission is over. Kim has been declared commander-in-chief and is not boarding the plane. Kim himself, using his ability to fly, crosses the sea to reach his destination, which is Hong Kong. It is in Hong Kong that people who call themselves the New Humanity are located. Having already arrived in the country, Cheon Yu-bin observes 2 unknown men in jackets and pursues them. Entering the gateway, 2 people notice the pursuit and try to find out who Cheon is. Not receiving a clear answer, they quickly call for reinforcements. A fight ensues, in which Chan wins without using his weapons, dealing with everyone with his bare hands. While attempting to interrogate one of his opponents, Chan is attacked from behind and decides to use his blades. After some time, Cheon returns to the headquarters hideout and brings the captured enemy with him, throwing him towards Koo and the allies. Koo interrogates the prisoner, trying to find out about unusual people with superpowers, and the man confirms the Korean's suspicions. At this time, one of the senior followers of the New Humanity is drinking in a bar when he is told about the attack. He decides not to tell his bosses what happened and decides to deal with the new threat himself. The followers of the New Humanity gather to avenge the attack on them. The leader orders them to start searching for the one who dared to touch their boys. It turns out that before the trip, each of Kim's squad was given a special and extremely powerful weapon for the duration of the mission. Only Khan is left without equipment, as his new robe cannot be used due to a magical barrier. In Hong Kong, the team uses the system to find the right alley and head there. The fighters of the New Humanity are also heading there, armed with whatever they can find. A fight quickly breaks out between the parties, in which the gangsters are noticeably losing. Once the carnage subsides, it turns out that it was not Kim's team that was in the fight, but an unknown man. One of the soldiers of the New Humanity mutates and attacks him. As they approach the battle site, Chan senses that there is someone else in the alley besides them. Upon arrival, they find numerous dead gangsters scattered throughout the area. As Kim moves further into the alley, he notices the trace of a small crack that someone had created without permission. Kim is surprised that someone would deliberately create the rift and contacts it. He connects to the rift and goes inside alone, leaving the team in a Hong Kong alley. Kim materializes in what appears to be a desert and is immediately confronted by an unknown person armed with a spear. Having fallen out of favor from the very first second, the guy suggests that they spar, and Kim agrees. While Kim is fighting the guy, his team, who remains in the alley, is attacked by gangsters. During the battle, the system detects that the guy fighting Kim is emitting daystone energy. Despite this, he deflects his attacks with his bare hands, greatly shocking his opponent. Finally stopping dodging, Kim quickly moves behind the girl and attacks him with all his might. The blow is so strong that the guy falls to the ground and can't breathe, trying not to spit out blood. Kim offers to talk to him, but he instantly teleports away, leaving him alone in an unknown location. The system notifies that Kim is isolated in this rift, but after some time he manages to move. The time difference is only 3 hours when he returns back to reality. At this moment, Yui and Koo are following a captured member of the New Humanity, who is leading them somewhere. The girls speculate that it would have been better if Kim had appeared during the last war with the monsters. Yui and Koo discuss his family as weapons are thrown at them from an ambush. Someone in a suit, who is clearly above all the gangsters, comes down to them from the roof and orders them to take the girls alive. A fight ensues, and at the very beginning of it, many supporters of the New Humanity find themselves roasted alive. Seeing this, the man in the suit transforms into a monster to finish off Ku and Yui. Yui asks Ku not to interfere, and thanks to her new staff, she creates 4 spells at once, directing them at the enemy. At this time, the guy who fought with Kim Ki-bong is treating his wounds after running away from the main character. While trying to rest, the guy feels that someone nearby has opened an instant rift. He instantly dons his combat gear and heads off to battle. Ku and Yui find themselves teleported to an unknown burning city. Realizing that they are inside a rift, Yui creates a protective spell around herself and her partner. Suddenly, a giant appears at them, who probably mutated from the minions of the new humanity. The mage summons a massive tornado to protect himself and Ku from the enemy and give them time to escape. However, this does not help, and the giant looms over Yui's protective dome, threatening to break it. Yui tried her best, but only attracted the attention of the other 2 giants. At this time, Kim Ki-bong's enemy finds a rift, but he does not see a soul near it. At first unsure of his plan, the boy enters the rift ready for battle. Kim Ki-bong, who is in the middle of the crowd, asks the system to find his comrades. She manages to find Cheon and Kang, but in addition to that, she captures the Daystone and something that absorbs its energy. The system reports that the person interacting with the Daystone is the same person Kim contacted through James's portal. Yui continues to hold off the 3 giants, but notices that even with inaction, she is losing her strength. Gathering his strength, the mage launches another devastating attack, hoping to cripple the monsters. After this, Yui falls to her knees, noticing that none of the giant monsters were damaged. Each of them simultaneously raises their fists and rushes at the protective dome to finish off Yui and Ku. They are saved by a guy with a spear, who throws his weapon and pierces one of the enemies. None of the monsters can compete with him in speed, and the guy takes advantage of this, inflicting more and more damage on enemies. Using magic, he accelerates himself so much that he passes right through the giant's body. At this moment, the man Kim is hunting is in an unknown warehouse and is using hypnosis magic to control people. Upon learning that the leader, Hwang Un, has gone AWOL and decided to kill the attackers, the man becomes angry and demonstrates his strength in civilian life. He decides to restore order himself and leaves through the portal he created. The follower of the new humanity who told the man about Hwang turns around and sees that the protagonist has found him. Kim Ki-bong tries to find out the location of the teleported man. In response to this, the follower tries to hypnotize the protagonist, but he fails. After this, he sets his subordinates on Kim by hypnotizing civilians, but Kim scares them off with his new skill. The system warns Kim that the person in front of him, like the main character, has a temporary difference with reality. Kim withstands another attack from the man and intends to neutralize him for interrogation later. In response to Kim's power, his opponent summons vile monsters filled with the energy of the Daystone. The bodies of the homunculi, as the system has nicknamed these creatures, beg for peace, for they were once people. Kim Ki-bong fulfills their request, eliminating them quickly and painlessly. Kim's blow was strong enough to destroy all the homunculi in one blow and destroy the huge wall behind the summoner. At this moment, the guy with the spear defeats his enemies, dispelling their gigantism technique. He tries to interrogate the defeated enemy, but he only insults him. The guy disdainfully stabs the shoulder of the new humanity's henchman, torturing him. Having received no clear answer to his demands, the guy executes him. He finally notices Yui lying on his lap and blushes deeply after their eyes meet. They meet, and the man introduces himself as the evil fox from Shandong. Having exhausted the enemy, Kim continues to try to find out where his allies have gone. The man teleports himself and Kim using rift magic, and they end up in an unknown location. He takes off his hood, saying that he spent a very long time in some terrible place. Kim asks the man directly if he is talking about a learning space, and he agrees, describing his experience. Kim, however, does not listen to him, which provokes another attack from the magician. In response to the mage's words that he spent only 200 years in the training space, Kim calls him a sucker. The mage grins and summons dozens of fire golems with his spells. At the command of their summoner, the monsters rush into battle, intending to sweep Kim out of their path. The main character enters the battle and crushes his opponents with his bare hands. It is not difficult for him to deal with the opponents, and immediately after the caster summons a huge fire golem snake. It wraps around Kim in midair, and the mage commands the creature to explode. Despite the colossal damage, the main character survives without a single wound on his body. The summoner praises Kim, but despite this summons a huge fire monster. One blow from the main character is enough to make the fire monster fall apart. Looking at all this from the outside, the spellcaster cannot believe his eyes. Meanwhile, Cheon and Kang are searching for the missing Yui and Ku, following their trail. Suddenly, Hwang Un approaches them along with other minions of the new humanity, and Cheon quickly attacks him with his dagger. Despite the weapon's power, it does no damage to Hwang, who only smiles. Hwang throws Cheon a photo showing the guildmaster himself, Kang and Kim. In addition, another photograph falls nearby, which depicts the missing Yui and Ku. Hwang calls Kang a puppy during the conversation, provoking him to recklessly rush into battle. Hwang orders his men to deal with the attacking Kang, not taking him seriously. This was their mistake. because Khan scattered them in all directions with his magic. At this time, Cheon prepares to fight Hwang, drawing his blades. A fierce fight ensues between the two, with Cheon attempting to cause some damage with his weapon. At the same time, Kim fights the monsters that his opponent continues to summon. Despite the monsters regenerating, Kim continues to destroy them, shocking the summoner with her power. Realizing that there is no other way, the magician cuts his own palm with his wand. Through this sacrifice, he summons into battle a being called the Spiritual King of Fire. The system reports that this monster is equal in strength to the fire dragon that Kim fought in the past. The monster attacks the protagonist with a huge sword, but he stops it with one hand. After Kim counterattacked the monster, the summoner began coughing up blood in shock, as he was connected to the monster by life force. After many attacks from Kim, the summoner, bleeding, asks the protagonist to stop. He tries to cancel the summoning, but the Spirit King refuses to leave the battlefield. He absorbs all the life force in the area, becoming even stronger. Finally charged with extra energy, the Spirit King casts a massive spell, destroying everything around him. Kim's strength is enough to resist the monster's attacks, and he tries to move forward. Once the smoke clears, the summoner sees that the Spirit King has been defeated at the hands of Kim. Only now does the magician realize that Kim himself spent a great deal of time in that learning space. As the defeated mage falls dead, Kim returns to reality. The system reports that an unknown object has been detected nearby, and Kim rushes to check the location, finding a black body there. The system calls the creature a rift humanoid and says it can be connected to, which Kim does. The humanoid transforms into a certain girl based on the memories of the main character. Kim addresses a humanoid named Bong Soon, and she adopts the name. Kim can't stand this pressure and asks to remove this image immediately. Cheon continues to duel with Hwang, trying to hurt him with his daggers. Wanting to get the guildmaster's weapon, Hwang hits him in the cheek with all his might with his golden glove. Cheon falls to the asphalt, his weapons flying in all directions. Kang rushes to help Cheon, but Hwang sends him flying with one kick. After some time, Yui, Ku, and their companion return to reality. Ku asks the guy, introducing himself as Ho, about the space they were in, but he refuses to answer. Yui assumes that they were in a momentary rift and asks the guy to tell them more. AK continues to refuse, but Yui wins him over with her cute appearance. He willingly reveals all the secrets of his techniques and methods of getting into the rift, which leaves Ku stupefied. When asked where the people who attacked the girls got such powers from, Ak says that they stole his family's techniques. Suddenly, Ku's bracelet, which the lieutenant gave her at the base in Korea, goes off. Ku explains that one of its functions is the ability to trap nearby monsters. The being that caused the bracelet to react so strongly turns out to be a transformed Khan. Having gained power, he pounces on Hwang, damaging him and outright scaring him. Hwang's gauntlets, which had not received any damage so far, began to crumble right before his eyes. When Kang attacks again, Hwang activates the instant rift entry technique. Having gained new strength from the rift, Hwang attacks his enemy more and more powerfully. Chan, who was accidentally pulled into the rift, regains consciousness. He sees the transformed Khan for the first time, who completely ignores the guildmaster and rushes into battle. Khan's strength has been reduced by the rift, and after receiving an injury to his shoulder, the boy begins to bleed. Hwang reveals the secret of Kang's strength by saying out loud that he is a sacred animal. During this time, Kim continues to interact with the humanoid, exploring its capabilities. The system, which had been talking to the protagonist all this time, moved itself inside the humanoid, appearing before Kim. She absorbs the Daystone, wanting to replenish her lost energy, and Kim allows her, although he does not agree at first. The system says it will now work in concert with Kim. Hwang continues to attack Kang, dealing damage to him without any problems. Cheon rushes to help his friend, but is stopped by Hwang's blow. Hwang attempts to deal the finishing blow to Kang, but is knocked back a great distance due to Kang's power returning. A rift opens right on the battlefield, and Ak, Yui, and Ku appear in it. Yui tries to greet Cheon, but Ak is jealous and puts his spear to his neck. An argument breaks out between the men, but Yui stops them. Meanwhile, Ku follows the signal from her bracelet, which points her to Khan. Kang takes Ku's hand and points to her bracelet, saying that it was what restored his power. At this point, Hwang returns to Kang but notices reinforcements arriving. Kim Ki-bong communicates with the system, pondering how he will introduce it to his allies, and gives it the name Sis. Sis walks forward a little and tells Kim to follow her, stating that she knows where everyone else is now. As soon as Ak sees Hwang, he rushes at him, because it was Hwang who was responsible for the death of Ak's grandfather. Despite his tremendous speed, Hwang kicks aka drawing blood. He doesn't give the guy a second to rest, throwing his light body to the ground. Driven by revenge for his grandfather, Ak continues to furiously attack Hwang, but he easily parries all attacks. At this time, the bearded man behind everything analyzes the situation, receiving information about the death of the summoner mage and the loss of the humanoid. All this time he communicates with a certain sphere, saying that he must be one with it. She tells him that after the unification, rifts will open all over the planet, but this does not stop the man. At this time in Japan, unknown players and civilians want to inspect the 7th level rift. The rift is cleared, and therefore the children who are given the excursion are guaranteed safety. At this moment, a strange light emanates from the rift behind the teacher watching the children. A moment passes and the woman is cut in half right in front of the children. With each passing second, more and more monsters appear in cities around the world, threatening the lives of millions of people. Faults are opening up across large countries such as Japan, the United States, England, and South Korea. The president of South Korea contacts the guild leaders and orders them to protect civilians and destroy monsters. Ake continues to fight Hwang, trying his best to damage him, but to no avail. Almost immediately, Hwang hits the guy in the face with his fist, and then delivers a crushing knee blow. Despite the damage, Ak rises, intending to continue the fight. Driven by the desire to avenge his own grandfather, he recklessly rushes into the attack. But Hwang's next blow is so powerful that Ak falls to the ground again, losing his weapon. Finally, Khan intervenes, after praising AKA for his courage and endurance. In an instant, Kang is next to Hwang to strike. Hwang understands that he is no match for such an enemy, and so he transforms, covering himself in armor. It turns out that he stole this technique from AKA's family, which drives him into hysterics. Gaining strength from Ku's bracelet, Kang attacks Hwang again, and a fierce battle begins between us. Ku falls to his knees due to the bracelet powering Khan, forcing him to end the battle as quickly as possible. Kang furiously attacks Hwang and tears his body into 3 pieces. Kang intends to finish off Hwang, but is stopped by Ak, who begs him to let him take his enemy's life. He falls to his knees and begs Khan, promising to give his life for him and his friends in the future. Kang agrees, and Ak, ignoring Hwang's words, beheads him. Kang transforms into his human form, thanking Ku for helping him. AK, once again thanking everyone, opens the rift to return to reality. However, only after returning back, the team of players notices one of the huge flying monsters above them. The Prime Minister calls Ku on his phone and informs him that the Black Code has been activated, which requires him to return to his homeland to participate in the war. At this time, Kim Ki-bong and Sis fight the attacking monsters. He asks the system to find his comrades and then goes to help them with it. Kim Ki-bong's friends try to buy Kang some time so that he can transform. Kim and Sis arrive on the battlefield, raising the morale of the tired players. On command, the system creates a protective spell, covering the children with a dome of magic. While Sis protects the others, Kim takes to the air to deal with the monsters. AK is shocked by the strength of the protagonist, realizing that he might not survive the battle against him. At this point, Sis meets Kim's allies, shocking them a little with her flamboyant behavior. The guys discuss what to do in this situation, and Sis says that he can teleport them back to Korea. At this time, the Korean prison and headquarters are attacked by monsters. Players are unable to hold back the onslaught of monsters, and they break through the prison cell with prisoners. One of the prison's defenders is close to death, but is saved by one of the prisoners, who is Park Tae-rim. Unable to control himself, Park walks towards the prone player, who in fear points a gun at the criminal. The player opens fire on Park, but the bullets are unable to penetrate his abs, and Park himself protects them both from the monster. All this time, Park Tae-rim's face remains expressionless. He walks past and sits down on the floor, and the prison defender runs away from him. News of the attack on the prison where Park is being held sends Prime Minister Gu Sengrin into a rage. She comes to the conclusion that they need to deal with Park before he regains his full power. She gathers a squad of her personal warriors and uses teleportation magic to move towards the prison. Gu examines the corpses of the monsters, and comes to the conclusion that the prison's defenders could not have done such a thing. The guard who ran up to her points his finger in horror at Park, who is standing next to one of the monster's bodies. Despite his exhaustion from imprisonment, he easily defeats another enemy. The player reports to the Prime Minister that Park is not trying to escape, only killing monsters and returning back to prison. Gu Sengrin calls out to Park Tae-rim, who mutters as he approaches her. At this time, Kim and his allies prepare to carry out teleportation between countries, which was temporarily allowed due to martial law. Sis opens a portal to Korea, causing Kim to learn that his country has also been attacked. Ku tries to convince Kim not to return to Korea, but he gets into a verbal altercation with her. Enraged, Kim orders the girl to shut up, cutting her off mid-sentence. Ignoring Ku's protests, Kim is about to enter the portal, but the system prevents him from doing so. In shock, he asks what she is doing, and she explains to him that by killing the eldest member of the new humanity, Kim's mother has a better chance of surviving. Yui doesn't understand what's going on, as from the outside it looks like Kim and Sis are just silently looking at each other. Sis explains that until their enemy is killed, the rifts will continue to appear. Kim decides to stay and find the enemy, ordering his allies to protect his mother. At this time, the Prime Minister asks Park Tae-rim why he didn't run away. He admits that he must pay for everything he and his sister have done. Although Gu Sengrin states that this will not wash away Park's sins, he still allows him to save people. She recalls how Park used to be called the Shield of Korea with pride. At this time, the Vice Master kills the monster that attacked him from behind with one blow. Afterwards, Park gathers the other members of the Shield Guild in preparation for battle against the monsters. At this time, a man speaks to players in a city surrounded by monsters. He states that they can control the situation as they have been able to defeat the monsters. At this time, he is being watched by a man with a beard, whom Kim is hunting. The group of people monitoring the event observes it and begins to observe it. One of the guys can't focus on the person, and the voice of the man with the beard appears in the other guy's head. His body stops moving and his eyes again see the man in the crowd looking straight at him. The man calls himself a new god and leaves the observer speechless because he did not take the man seriously. The guy is about to report what happened, but the man tells him remotely that everyone will find out soon anyway. A man on the podium is about to announce that this is the age of men, but the stage explodes. The remains of the stage and the performer's body fall on the players, causing panic. A man in a robe rises into the air and summons a huge tornado that envelops everything around him. One of the observers orders the snipers to eliminate the threat. The sniper tries to shoot the man, but after some threats he causes bleeding from the soldier's eye. The players prepare to attack, but a monster summoned by the man appears in front of them. Immediately behind him, dozens and dozens of new creatures appear around, threatening to sweep away the entire city. At this moment, Kim is with Sis, who manages to track down the threat. Kim Ki-bong and the system quickly fly up, and the system states that there is an obstacle in the air in their path. They discover a huge pack of monsters, and Kim tears them apart by flying right through them. After this, the system records the opening of a huge fault, which is located in South Korea. Sis, however, assures Kim that the humans are coping with the aftermath of the rift, reassuring him. Kim and the system find themselves in a city that is under a purple veil. Kim pointedly points out that this is the work of a man, not a monster. Sis fails to track the enemy, and Kim destroys all the monsters, assuming that the man will then appear himself. Near the civilians hiding in the ruins is Peck, whom James hired to recruit Kim. Civilians are attacked by monsters that mercilessly devour people. Players try to protect the citizens, but they don't have enough strength. 2 civilians are attacked by one of the monsters, but Peck enters the battle, deciding to help the people. However, in response to the child's gratitude, Beck is tormented by the mistakes he made. He ignores his doubts and continues to fight, trying to protect as many people as he can. When the child says that he wants to be like Peck, the man asks him to be a much better person. After this moment, Beck unexpectedly encounters a squad of Kim's soldiers, whom he beat up during their previous meeting. He tries to leave, but Han, Kim's deputy, stops him and starts threatening him. Their conversation is interrupted by a monster of impressive size that appears next to the people. Han and his partner set off to meet the monster, ignoring Beck's cries that they will not succeed. The boys rush into battle and rain down blows on the enemy, killing him and leaving Peck in shock. After defeating a monster, a team of soldiers sets up special devices, similar to beacons, that attract monsters. Gu Sengren and his soldiers teleport to the light of the lighthouse. Joining forces with Kim's squad, the Prime Minister orders all monsters in their path to be destroyed. The battle begins, with hundreds of players taking part in it, fighting against an endless number of monsters. Along with them, Park Tarim leads the Shield Guild soldiers into battle, aiding the human forces. Peck approaches Park Tarimu, who commands him to join the rest of the Shield Guild. Donning his guild uniform, Peck, full of determination, enters the fight on the side of humanity. The next enemy on Kim Ki-bong's path is the Black Dragon, which is the boss of the 8th level. However, his strength is not enough to last even a second against the main character. A small rift in reality appears in the air, and Sis suggests that after a while this area will no longer be called land. She explains that while the 2 realities previously touched each other through rifts, now the Earth is at risk of being completely swallowed up. After listening to the system's words, Kim decides that whatever the original source of the problem is, it must be destroyed. After absorbing several daystones left behind by the monsters, Sis points out to the protagonist an area where someone's presence is felt. The heroes come out to buildings that merge with the computer world, and Kim notices that it looks like a training rift. Here they discover a disgusting creature that turns out to be a fusion of man and monster. The system uses its magic to summon a colossal attack that tears the monster apart. The monster, however, survives and approaches Kim, capturing his attention. Before disappearing into thin air, the monster says that all of this was prepared especially for the main character. At this time, Cheon Yu-bin uses all his strength to destroy as many monsters as possible. The allies trust Chan to deal with the monsters at this end and head off to continue on their way. Finally, the group of heroes reaches the hospital where Kim Ki-bong's mother is located. The soldiers guarding the hospital suggest retreating with the patients, but Lieutenant Lee forbids them. She explains that they cannot move Kim's mother to another location because she will die without the proper equipment. The heroes say that at the cost of their lives they will protect the hospital and Kim Ki-bong's mother. On his way, the main character and Sis meet people who, under the influence of hypnosis, inject themselves with serums for transformation. They instantly begin to turn into creatures, losing everything human. Without a second thought, the transformed people rush at Kim and Sis, trying to wipe them off the face of the earth. Kim says that they need to be given peace and kills all the attackers, accompanied by a shocked look from the system. According to the system, time flows differently in this city and in the rest of reality. and Kim learns that 16 days have already passed outside. Sis discovers that the obstacles to finding the enemy have disappeared, and points out the path they should take. At this time, a bearded man sits on a throne in an empty room, and behind his throne, magic flows. The creature that the man has absorbed tells him that Kim Ki-bong is a manufacturing error. In response, the man laughs, saying that he will not believe the creature's words that it made a mistake. He opens a portal that reveals Kim Ki-bong's mother lying in the hospital. At this time, Chun, Yui, and the other guys are defending the hospital from the monsters attacking it. Ah-kei states that he is doing all this for Yui, whom he already considers his fiancée, which leaves her dumbfounded. Ku suggests that the heroes will be able to rest a little, but a large explosion thunders in the distance from the hospital. From the crater formed by the explosion, many eyes can be seen, and Yui can sense the immense magic emanating from the area. Rising to their full height, a group of strong, high-ranking bosses emerge from the crater. Night falls and the players admire the beautiful starry sky. Yui and Ku discuss Kim Ki-bong's mother, and the agent explains that his mother has some kind of rift cancer. In response to Yui's words that the mortality rate from such a disease is 100%, Ku assures that the hospital has a technology for treatment, which they are protecting. She notes that the monsters that appeared during the day have not yet attacked. They decide to send a reconnaissance team consisting of Cheon Yu-bin and AKA to the location. Upon arriving at the observation point, Ak smells blood, and the team spots the level 6 bosses scouting the area. The monsters notice Cheon standing on the roof and rush to attack, starting to pursue the players. They decide to engage in battle with the monsters, since they have essentially not obtained any useful information. After attacking one of the dragons, Ak uses instant rift magic, teleporting himself and the enemy to another location. At this time, Cheon Yu-bin fights the second dragon, causing it serious injuries. He manages to break through the monster's body, tearing it apart. AK teleports behind him, saying that he also defeated the monster. The team decides to continue their exploration, finding themselves right in front of the place where a massive explosion occurred. Chun is genuinely amazed by the number of high-class monsters that suddenly appeared at the site of the explosion. With his own eyes, he sees someone sitting right between the monsters on a stone. At this moment, the creature sitting on the stone turns its attention to the people watching it. Suddenly, the creature's face splits into different parts, revealing a hidden eye that stares straight at Cheon and AKA. In an instant, the creature appears right behind the guildmaster. Neither hero has time to react, and the monster delivers a powerful blow straight to Aka's cheek, throwing his body far away. Immediately after, the creature slowly turns to Cheon, saying that humans are inferior creatures who must await their death. Meanwhile, Kim Ki-bong and the system continue their journey through the city, and after some time, the team stumbles upon their enemy. The man refers to Sis as a fragment that has stolen what is rightfully his. Not wanting to wait any longer, Kim begins to move closer and closer to the man. The man suddenly waves his hand and materializes 4 figures of the strongest 10th class monsters in front of the main character. Despite threats that each of the creatures could destroy humanity, Kim does not back down. Chun returns to the hospital and carries AKA to the building. Without a second to spare, Yui uses flight magic and lands next to the boys. Ku also appears nearby and excitedly asks how AKA is feeling. Cheon explains that they encountered a high-ranking monster that they saw for the first time in their lives, and asks Ku to contact Gu Sengren. In response to a request for help, the Prime Minister asks the guys to hold out for a week, because she herself is fighting at the front. At this time, Khan meditates inside the hospital building, slowly turning into a sacred animal. The creature that injured AKU and was still sitting in the crater is given the order to destroy the people. The system watches as Kim Ki-bong fights the highest-ranking summoned monsters in the air. Despite the enormous strength of his enemies, the protagonist manages to withstand their attacks. Sis tries to go to help Kim, but a man appears behind her, saying that he has business with her. Immediately after this, the system is covered by a black magical cloud that appeared from the man's left eye. The man approaches Kim and says that he saw his future through the device. Even while distracted by the conversation, Kim continues to easily defend himself from the monsters attacking him. The man tells Kim to try to win without his device, but Kim states that she has no idea what device he is talking about. Immediately after this, he tears off a limb from one of the monsters, causing it to cry out in pain. The monster, enraged, charges forward again, and Kim punches it right through with his fist. Turning around, he seriously asks the man where he took the system. At this time, Sis lies unconscious in the digital world where the main character began his journey. She awakens from her sleep and rises, hearing a voice that invites her to return back. Sis and her interlocutor discuss the huge number of faults on Earth, and states that this is why he allowed people to find daystones. The voice tells Sis to return to him and become one with him again. Immediately after this, a purple haze appears around the system, enveloping her body from head to toe. At this point, Kim is talking to a man who states that it is childish to name instruments, referring to Sis. Kim repeats his question, and his opponent interrupts the protagonist, saying that the system has disappeared because Kim's device was disconnected from the man's device. At this moment in the computer world, the system rejects the voice, not wanting to merge with it. Kim refuses to believe her rival's words, claiming that Sis can't just disappear. The system tells the voice that it will not return back, as it has managed to become attached to the main character over 3,000 years in the educational space. The voice does not want to give up and is going to take Sis by force in order to merge with her into one whole. Kim fights the second monster, but it regenerates its injuries. Despite the man's taunts, Kim doesn't give in and clenches her fist, wanting to strike again. He gathers all his strength, literally incinerating the monster with his attack. Kim's attack is so monstrous that it can be easily seen in space. While in the air, the protagonist silently watches through the crater left by his attack. At this time, Ku, who is near the hospital, meets the bird she summoned, which she sent out on reconnaissance. Before Ku can report the danger, the others begin to sense the monsters approaching the hospital. Cheon Yu-bin is the first to rush into battle, grinding the limbs of the monsters with his blade. Ak Ho Shandong, having recovered from a serious injury, rushes into battle right behind the guildmaster. He opens an instant rift, killing 8 monsters at once. Yui also joins the battle, using her strong magic to defeat the enemy. Ku joins the battle with his summoned animals, sicking his animals on one of the bosses. The soldiers, who at this moment are simply watching from the hospital windows, discuss the heroes in shock. Cheon realizes that they need to kill as many of the smaller monsters as possible before the creature that knocked AKA down arrives. But immediately after, Cheon senses its presence. Reacting instantly, Cheon Yu-bin screams and tries to hit the monster. But as soon as he turns around, he doesn't notice anyone behind him and thinks that it's just a hallucination. However, the monster appears on the roof next to the guildmaster, addressing him as if reading his mind. Chun decides to try to attack first, but his opponent is behind the man in an instant. The monster plans to kill the guildmaster painlessly, telling him how much weaker and more helpless he is. The monster doesn't have time to launch its attack, as the transformed Khan intervenes in the situation. In response to the monster's words about Cheon's helplessness, Kang states that humans are creatures that are very good at surprising people. The monster asks why a sacred animal like Khan is on the side of humans, but he refuses to answer. The enemy then tries to set Khan on fire with magical purple fire, but Khan easily sweeps it off his body. A full-scale battle ensues between the creatures, with Kang fighting a high-ranking monster for the first time without Kim Ki-bong. Khan's strength proves to be enough to hold off his opponent's attacks. The speed of the fighters is so fast that when they move, they resemble flashes of lightning in the sky. Cheon, watching from below, does not interfere in the battle despite his arrogance. He sheathes his weapon, concluding that it was not humans who killed the fire dragon, but Kim Ki-bong, thus admitting his limits. But suddenly he is called out by Ak, who is fighting monsters, asking Cheon Yu-bin to help him. Gritting his teeth and drawing his weapon, the guildmaster rushes into battle, intending to do everything in his power to help humanity. At the same time, Kim fights with his opponent, who attacks the main character with strong magic. Kim, however, takes no damage from his enemy's magic, teleporting behind him. In an instant, the protagonist attacks the man right in the cheek, crushing his face. The man's body pierces through several buildings after being struck by Kim. The man doesn't have time to recover before Kim delivers another kick, causing his enemy to bleed profusely. Kneeling in front of Kim Ki-bong, the man hysterically screams that he can still become a god. Not wanting to listen to anything anymore, Kim clenches his fist and prepares to attack the enemy. However, the latter activates magic that absorbs Sis, covering everything around him, including the man. His body becomes crippled and deformed, representing a real monster. Swelling and growing ever larger, the monster says out loud that the 3,000-year plan has borne fruit. Meanwhile, near the hospital, Khan is bleeding from the wound he received from the monster. The monster itself did not remain whole, and its left arm was missing for some time before it regenerated. After a short dialogue, the monster rushes to attack Khan, seeking to finish him off. He again wounds the sacred animal, causing Khan to bleed from the mouth. Ku decides to help Kang Hui and asks the summoned animals to cover her while she tries to get to him. Upon seeing Ku, Khan says that he relies on her, and Ku activates his bracelet, intending to imbue Khan with new power. Thanks to this, he regenerates very quickly and gets up, ready to continue the fight. Because of the bracelet, his speed becomes so high that he catches the monster off guard, attacking it in the body. Chan also decides to join the fight, even though he understands that his strength is not that great. The remaining heroes gather near Khan, having finished with all the weak monsters. The emerging monster tells Kim that there was no miscalculation in creating Kim so strong. Kim asks if his 3,000-year imprisonment was planned by this being, to which he receives a sharp smile. The creature explains that it was not capable of coming to Earth alone, and needed someone who could break the rules. The monster says that he had to create his double for 3,000 years, and then calls Kim just a byproduct. Kim is about to rush into battle, but hears Sis's voice, and the monster, smiling, states that Sis is telling Kim to run. Hearing this, the protagonist instantly rushes into battle, intending to sweep away his enemy. At this moment at the hospital, Khan deprives the monster of his arm, but it immediately regenerates. All heroes combine their powers to inflict as much damage as possible on the enemy, gradually turning him into nothing but a pile of ash. but after just a few seconds it regenerates, gathering itself back together. Filled with rage, the monster uses magic to attack all players at once, causing a large explosion. All of the heroes are wounded, and Ak, seeing Yui unconscious, slowly rises to his feet. Hearing threats from the monster, the boy remembers the fate of his father, who locked himself and the monster in a rift to lock him away forever. Seeing Yui regain consciousness, he slowly tells her that he likes her. He boldly and slowly approaches the monster, stopping close to it. After a moment, with a smile on his face, he turns to the still lying Yui, saying that he loves her. Immediately after this, he uses the magic of eternal closing of the instant rift, disappearing from sight along with the monster. Yui, unable to fully comprehend what happened, begins to cry. Kim Ki-bong tries to destroy his regenerating enemy by raining down blows on him. From afar, the sounds of battle are heard by Kang Hui, who smirks as he transforms back into a human. No matter how much the main character attacks his opponent, all he does is recover. Finally, he attacks, forcing Kim to cover from a blow that can be seen all over the ground. The energy from the impact reaches orbit, destroying one of the human descendants. Kim manages to hold off the blow, but for the first time in a long time, he starts bleeding from the mouth. The monster calls himself Kim's creator, but he refuses to admit it. Smiling, the monster uses another of its attacks, showering Kim with bright red magic. Kim manages to withstand this attack as well, but the effect of the enhancement that had been strengthening him all this time has worn off. Descending towards Kim, the monster offers him to surrender and make him an 11th rank monster. He enters physical enhancement again and rushes into battle. After a short exchange of blows, the monster regenerates, and Kim's physical enhancement effect is removed again. Approaching Kim Ki-bong, the monster swings, intending to finish Kim off. The protagonist fails to react in time, and the monster's blow lands right on Kim's cheek. He fails to block the next blow, after which the protagonist's body is crushed in half. Kim tries to resist with all her might because of the memories of her mother and the desire to protect her. The monster wraps its paw around Kim, but he breaks it apart thanks to the improvement of the physical enhancement skill. He rushes into battle, wanting to destroy the monster. Its strike, similar to a nuclear explosion, slams directly into the enemy's body, but does not cause significant damage. A fast-paced battle ensues between the two sides, with each displaying tremendous speed and strength. After a while, the monster's exhausted body falls to the ground and he groans in pain. Kim asks if this was part of his plan, which irritates the monster. Without letting him get up, Kim delivers another attack with his foot right to the enemy's head. He doesn't give the monster a second to scam, beating him over and over again. Kim Ki-bong lowers himself down to the monster lying motionless on the ground, ordering it to hand over the system. Unexpectedly, he agrees, and Kim and his opponent are transported into the digital world. When told that it was the monster that created Kim and controls his life, the main character only smirks. Gradually, the enemy mutates, turning into a huge beast. Kim instantly destroys the monster's new body, returning it to the old one, and in parallel, damaging the computer world. The system returns to the protagonist from the walls of the damaged dimension. She stops right in front of Kim Ki-bong and tears well up in her eyes. Hugging Sis and turning back to the enemy, Kim gathers all his strength into a fist and attacks the monster with it. The system records that Kim has received a new skill called Godslayer. The impact literally dissolves the monster's body, leaving only a small sphere on the floor. Saying that nothing is over yet, he tries to regenerate back. However, the system comes closer and begins to absorb his strength and energy, for it is the monster that is the main system. In a panic, the monster hurls threats and humiliations at Sis, but she does not stop. In a desperate attempt to do at least something, the monster throws himself at the system with his last strength, but it blocks his blow with a shield of magic. Then the enemy grows in size for the last time and covers Kim and the system. With a sigh, Kim punches the monster with all his might, destroying both its body and the dimensions around them. Sis completely absorbed the energy and power of the main system, and then hugs Kim Ki-bong. Kim asks what is happening in Korea and asks the system to take him to his partners. They both pass through the walls of the collapsing world, intending to reach reality through different rifts. On their way, they sweep away crowds of monsters that have been in the rifts all this time. At this time, Ak is kneeling, holding his shoulder and dropping his spear. The monster mocks him, but Ak smiles and states that he does not regret his choice. AK asks out loud to kill him, to which the monster agrees, turning his hand into a huge blade. However, his body is torn apart by the appearance of Kim Ki-bong, who teleported into the rift. Ak laughs until he cries from the spectacular appearance of the main character, which simply wiped the monster off the face of the earth. At this time, Ku is standing near the hospital trying to calm Yui down. Suddenly, a rift in the sky above the hospital collapses and Ku asks all civilians to take cover. Yui slowly looks up, her tear-stained eyes lighting up as she sees the three people from the rift. She rushes towards AKU, hugging him and starting to hide her tear-stained face in his chest. Not wanting to ruin the moment, all the heroes simply watch the couple with smiles on their faces. The city is being slowly restored, with ordinary civilians involved. Prime Minister Gu Sengrin talks to Ku about the recent fierce battle at the hospital. Kim Ki-bong praises Kang Hui, causing him to smile sincerely. All this time, the main character's mother is in the hospital, connected to a life support machine. Kim watches over her mother's body, saying out loud that it's over. The heroes, who have been in the hospital all this time, watch the tired and exhausted Kim. Slowly, the protagonist's mother's eyes open and tears begin to flow. She addresses Kim Ki-bong by name and he cannot contain his emotions. With a long-awaited smile on his face, he instantly finds himself next to his mother, hugging her. Meanwhile, in America, two people are walking around a ruined city and discussing the unexplained disappearance of all the high-ranking bosses. Two people named Steve and Lucia are attacked from behind by a lizard-like monster. Within a second, Lucia kills the monster, telling Steve to brace himself and be ready. He suggests that she contact her family, but she only says that her father and brother died during the Great War. After a short conversation, Lucia states that she is going to go back to Korea. At this moment, a rift from the digital world appears on the sun. From it emerges a large creature that is immune to the sun's heat. It causes solar flares and arcs that cover the entire star. After this, several groups of stones fly towards the ground. While on the ground in Seoul, Kim Ki-bong feels it while he is on a walk with his mother. An unknown man with a large sword on his back walks slowly through the desert. He stops, and right in front of him a huge worm emerges from the sand. The man removes his robe, revealing himself to be Park Tarim, now the Shield Guild master. The 7th-class monster pounces on Park, wanting to grind him into powder. Park deliberately allows himself to be swallowed, and then rips the enemy's head apart from the inside with swings of his sword. After finishing off the worm and wiping the blood off his sword, Park notices several blue spheres above his head. They all hit Park, causing him extreme pain, causing the man to start screaming. However, his body experiences what happened, and he falls to his knees, gritting his teeth. Several harpoon chains emerge from the ground, rushing towards Park and binding his hands. In front of him, there are many dark purple cracks that were created artificially. People in dark robes emerge from the rifts, each of whom has the highest rank of power. They treat Park as a sinner who has become a government dog and begs for their mercy. An old man named Snake addresses Park as if he had known him for a long time. He asks Park where Kim Ki-bong is, to which Park suggests letting him go first. The old man makes a joke and mentions Park's sister, which enrages him, breaks his chains and grabs his sword, intending to kill his interlocutor. At this time, a man named Dragunov uses magic with the help of a book to stop Park. A colossal force begins to press down on the Shield Guild master from the sky, causing him to bleed. His body is chained again and lifted into the air. Helpless, Tarim Park is subjected to multiple attacks, unable to resist them. With a final blow, the attacking man hits Park right on the head, forcing him to spit out blood. Gathering his strength, Park breaks free of his chains again, breaking them into separate pieces. With a swing of his sword, he strikes the man, forcing him to cover himself in metal armor. However, it doesn't save him from Park's blow, crumbling right on his face. Park swings his fist and lands a punch right in the opponent's face. Dragunov uses powerful magic again to pin the guildmaster to the ground. As Park collapses, the humans notice that his strength has increased many times over and decide to take him as a test subject. Suddenly, a teleporter opens nearby, causing Park to laugh, saying that the owner came to save his dog. Prime Minister Gu Sengren appears from the teleporter along with his soldiers. She looks in surprise at Snake and Dragunov, who were able to break through the protective magic in the desert area. Without another word, the attackers quickly leave the area using teleportation magic. Meanwhile, in Korea, System and Kim's mother return home carrying the groceries they bought. Two unknown guys suddenly stop in front of them, blocking the road. One of the boys grabs the mother by the hand and she, trying to get rid of his grip, accidentally throws the man over herself. Her sudden force is enough to send the boy's body flying into the wall of a nearby building. The system says that Kim Ki-bong used a special ingredient to treat her mother. It turns out to be the heart of the fire dragon that the main character killed. The second player, who was standing nearby and heard their dialogue, has his memory erased by the system. Deciding to play it safe, she resets the memory of all the townspeople who were in the event zone. At this point, Kim returns home and checks the time, believing that his mother and sis should be back soon. On his way, he meets Steve and Lucia, who are walking towards the main character. In Lucia, he accidentally recognizes his younger sister Bong Soon and calls her name out loud. After hesitating at first, she draws her sword from its sheath and lunges at Kim, putting the blade to his throat. She asks who he is and how he knows her name, because she did not recognize him as her brother. The protagonist tells her that she has grown a lot, which awakens memories in her mind. She, however, does not want to believe what is happening and calls Kim a double who was sent by someone. He asks what he can do to make Bong Soon believe him, and she asks where he was before he disappeared. Kim answers truthfully, saying that he was working at the supermarket at the time and apologizes for not buying groceries that day. Bong Soon is still hesitant, causing Kim to laugh, which provokes the girl into hysterics. The girl quickly leaves, leaving Kim Ki-bong confused along with Steve, who doesn't know what to say. At this point, the president looks at photos of those who attacked Park Tarima, assuming that they want to start a war. Gu Sengren explains that it may be because of the magic stones, which are an excellent replacement for oil and nuclear energy. 3 months ago, the system erased all information about Kim Ki-bong from the memories of all people, with the exception of a few individuals. Gu knows that this was done for security purposes, so that no one could steal the protagonist's memories and information. Bong soon decides to meet her mother to understand what is going on. She notices that there is no one on the street now, and assumes that this is the work of magic. Left defenseless because she threw her sword in front of Kim, the girl notices a group of unknown men. At this time, Kim Ki-bong is talking to Steve near his home, discussing Bong Soon's life in America. Their conversation is interrupted as they hear the sounds of a fight nearby. Steve, using his scanning magic, senses Lucia's energy from the direction of the explosion in the city. Steve turns to look at Kim and sees nothing but a monster, which leaves him so shocked that he can't stand up. At this time, the men ask Bong Soon where her partner Steve is now, and she denies it. It turns out that the men are from the Russian Secret Service, and they demand that Lucia reveal information about the magic stones. She calls all 4 of them worthless and prepares to fight, taking a stance. Bong Soon uses Fire Fist magic and 4 men rush to attack her. A fight begins, during which the girl easily fights back against her attackers. However, she understands that she will not last long without a sword, and therefore looks for ways to leave the battle. She tries to run away, but the electrical magic prevents her from moving, forcing her to fall to the ground. Russian Secret Service agents pick up her body and are about to leave before the police arrive. They see Kim Ki-bong approaching them. The protagonist orders the people to put Bong Soon on the ground if they want to earn mercy. One of the men orders that the obstacle in the form of Kim be dealt with, and his subordinates rush into battle. Kim Ki-bong, however, avoids the collision by simply flying past the crowd attacking him. His speed is so monstrous that the men who attack him are thrown to the side as if they had been hit. The man holding Bong Soon looks in horror at Kim, who approaches him and orders him one last time to let the girl go. However, instincts take over, and the guy starts running, not following the main character's order. The fugitive quickly takes out the return sphere to escape from Kim to the shelter. He successfully escapes through the portal with the unconscious Bong Soon, and the portal begins to close. However, the guy sees Kim's face appear in the portal before it closes. Just as he was about to leave to report everything to his superiors, the guy turns around at the sound and sees that Kim is literally tearing apart the space. The Secret Service agent tries to escape, but Kim grabs him by the scruff of the neck and doesn't let him go. It throws the person into the created gap in space, throwing him back out onto the street. Taking Bong Soon in his arms, Kim Ki-bong returns back to the city through the same portal. He orders Sis to come and find out everything about the men who are planning to ambush Bong Soon. The system approaches the person lying on the ground and uses mind control magic, obtaining all the necessary information. Kim gives Sis the command to open a portal that leads to a deserted place in Russia. He warns the man one last time not to approach him and his sister, then sends him into the portal with a blow. Kim returns home carrying her sister on her back, who slowly comes to and notices the system. The trio are greeted by an excited Steve and Kim Ki-bong's mother, and Bong Soon, upon seeing his mother, rushes to hug her. Kim, Bong Soon, their mother Steve and the system enter the house and go down to the basement, which is a huge, spacious and rich building. Mom explains to Bong Soon that the government gave them this building, and Kim doesn't answer her question about who Sis is. Later, Steve and Lucia are chatting separately from the others, and Bong Soon reveals that she is being targeted by Russian intelligence because of information about the magical stones. She asks Steve if he scanned Kim and checked if he is a player or not, to which he lies to her, calling Kim a regular person. The next day, Bong Soon and Steve set off to explore the dungeons of South Korea. Kim Ki-bong follows them, which greatly infuriates his sister, causing her to yell at her brother. Steve offers to take Kim with them, but Bong Soon reminds him that her brother is just a man who has never killed anyone. After Kim falls behind Bong Soon and Steve, after some time they enter into a battle with monsters. She asks Steve to scan the monsters and after waiting for permission to begin the battle, enters it. With the help of fire magic and a blade, the girl easily deals with monsters. Immediately after finishing the fight, the girl notices a magic stone and leans towards it, surprised that they still appear in Korea. At this time, one of the guilds, which was going to clear the same portal, realizes that they were beaten to it. The guild members were about to enter the portal, but they were called out by Kim Ki-bong, who for some reason was wearing a horse mask. Not taking the main character seriously, the guild members pounce on him with the desire to reveal his identity. Kim quickly deals with all the guild members single-handedly. Realizing that Kim will not allow anyone to enter the portal, the guild members leave. Meanwhile, Bong Soon and Steve continue to clear the rift and collect magic stones. Bong Soon says that it was luck that no other guilds interfered, but Steve doubts that it was luck. Deciding that it doesn't matter, the girl takes out the hearthstone and teleports herself and Steve away. At this time, Jung Hyun-jun, who is the leader of the Blue Dragon Guild's External Forces group, is resting on one of the roofs. A squad of workers who wanted to clear the rift approaches him and reports on what happened. After hearing the description of the person who attacked them, Jung Hyun walks away with a bright smile, intending to sort things out. At this time, Snake and Dragunov, who attacked Park in the desert, talk to each other. Snake states that there is some force that erased their memories, which interests Dragunov. He claims that an uninhabited island in Russia has recently completely evaporated, and Dragunov thinks it is the work of a 9-star monster. However, Snake convinces him that the same force that erased their memories is to blame. After some thought, Old Man Snake offers to recruit the owner of such power, after which he opens a portal somewhere. At this moment, Kim Ki-bong is again attacked by people who belong to one of the guilds. He easily deals with ordinary players, which instills fear in everyone gathered. Sometime later, Kim Ki-bong, his sister and mother Sis and Steve are eating in a government-allocated house. Bong soon says that he wants to go to an open dungeon that might have a lot of magic stones. Kim asks if he can go with his sister, but she firmly refuses. After this, she leaves the table, telling Kim to keep an eye on his girlfriend, who she believes to be the system. Out on the playground, Kim's sister sits alone on the swing. Steve comes up to her and, sitting on the nearby swing, asks why Bong soon treats her brother like that. She explains that Kim showed up too suddenly, and she can't risk his life thinking he's an ordinary person. The next day, many people gather at the entrance to the open dungeon, as many guilds are prevented from entering the rift by someone in an animal mask. It is at this moment that Bong Soon and Steve emerge from the portal, both wearing animal masks. Bong Soon notices the entire crowd looking at her and Steve with anger, and someone from the crowd taking pictures of them. The photo reaches Jung Hyun, who gathers a squad of fighters to attack the people in animal masks. Meanwhile, Bong Soon tries to recruit some players to her team, but they run away from her and Steve in fear. In parallel, Chan meets with Snake and Dragunov's men on the way to the portal to the open dungeon. The red-skinned man asks Chong to get out, to which he simply cuts off the man's metal arm. As a result, Steve and Lucia fail to assemble a team to clear the dungeon. Steve suggests that Lucia get rid of the masks, but she refuses, because she is afraid of persecution by government agencies. At this point, Chan attacks his opponent once again after he mocks the guildmaster. However, the cyborg's strength is enough to block Chan's blow and throw him, grabbing him by the leg. The man ordered his subordinates to enter the dungeon and find the masked man, but Jung stops him by getting up after being hit. He also orders his soldiers to find the man in the animal mask, while simultaneously rushing back into battle. In the dungeon, Bong Soon and Steve meet a couple of people in animal costumes who offer to form a team. Bong Soon senses a familiar manner of communication, and Steve talks about changing the voice with magic, but Lucia still agrees to accept help. Steve scans the two people and discovers that the suits are hiding Kim Ki-bong and the system. Steve explains that it takes 4 people to get into the portal that leads to the intermediate boss. After some time, the team arrives at one of the portals. They are teleported and find themselves in a dark place, surrounded by the bodies of other players. Under Bong Soon's orders, Steve activates his vision ability to scan the area. He confirms the presence of the enemy, and Lucia and Steve prepare to begin the fight. Several reptiles enter the battle, and Steve uses support magic, protecting Bong Soon from injury. She easily deals with the lizards, defeating them one by one with her sword. Kim and Steve are off to the side, discussing how the monsters were too weak to take out the humans at the entrance, but Sis calls out to them. In the distance, Kim's keen eyesight reveals the figure of a monster standing alone on the mountain. Snake comes out of the portal to the creature and offers them to join forces. However, the creature simply leaves through the portal, leaving Snake behind. At this moment, the fight between Chan and his red-skinned opponent ended, after which the guildmaster mocked the loser. He mercilessly crushes his enemy's metal head with his foot, killing him. Immediately after, he goes inside the portal intending to deal with the people in animal masks. At this moment, Bong Soon continues to fight monsters in the open dungeon. Kim and the system simply stand by and watch as Steve provides Kim's sister with magical support. He uses magic to increase Bong Soon's speed many times over, making her even stronger. Thanks to the power-ups he received, Bong Soon defeats the monster. The team collects the magic stones that fell after the destruction of the monster. Bong Soon suggests that the team split up and reconvene tomorrow, and then uses the return stone to teleport away. After discussing Bong Soon for a bit, Kim and System decide to return home, but heard a voice behind them. Blue Dragon Guild Master Chan runs right up behind them, threatening to kill them. He shouts that he will kill everyone wearing an animal mask, forcing Kim to move away from the portal and towards Jong. Jong attacks Kim with his foot, but Kim easily blocks the blow, forcing the Guildmaster to retreat. Unconsciously, Jong panics and realizes that he has chickened out in front of Kim. A little later, Chong's subordinates arrive to help him, ready to enter the fight. He commands his soldiers to prepare for battle, declaring Kim a rank 8 monster. The rank of 8 stars was awarded to monsters that cause disasters in many countries. The guild soldiers are ready for battle because in it they will defend the honor of the Blue Dragon Guild. Finally, Jung commands them to start fighting, and the guild members attack Kim with their weapons, trying to pin him to the ground. However, Kim proves to be too resistant to this weapon, shocking the guild members and Jung. The guildmaster attacks Kim, but it hurts as if he had kicked a piece of iron. Punching the main character's body also has no effect. Jung examines his hand after hitting Kim, then falls to the ground and screams in pain. To his surprise, he finds himself trembling with fear. He had experienced fear exactly twice in his life, when he became a player, and when the war with the monsters first began. He asks Kim Ki-bong who he is, but the protagonist rudely refuses to answer. In his head, he goes over the options of who could be hiding behind the animal mask in front of him. At this moment, his subordinates run to help Chan despite his cries to stop. Kim creates a tornado with a wave of her hand and sends the guild members flying one after another. After this, Kim tells the man not to follow him, causing horror to appear on Jung's face. He gently punches Chan in the stomach, causing him to fall down exhausted, and returns to the system. Before losing consciousness, Jung asks Kim, who has removed his mask, where he has been all this time. But Kim assures him that he has always been helping Korea. The rumor of the Blue Dragon Guild's defeat instantly spread to the people. The unknown men in the office discuss what happened, because Chan and his soldiers are strong players. Suddenly, a portal opens right in the office, through which Snake enters the negotiation room. An altercation occurs between the purple-haired man and Snake, which the old man offers to stop. It turns out that it was Snake who quickly spread the rumors, which incurs the man's wrath. Snake asks the man if his memory is intact, and then gives him a piece of paper with coordinates. After saying goodbye, the old man summons a portal using magic and leaves. After thinking for a moment, the purple-haired man burns the note with the coordinates. At this moment, the creature that was in the open dungeon is wandering in the snowy mountains. There it meets another monster whose body is covered in blue crystals. Red calls Blue my bio, who calls his opponent Jot Rez, and a fight ensues between the monsters. After a few blows, Jot commands his opponent to obey. At this time, Khan, traveling with his partner, conducts reconnaissance from the same mountains. They are keeping an eye on the boss, who has taken no action all this time. After some time, they find a human body in the ice. Khan declares a code black and tells his partner to contact headquarters. At this moment, Cheon Yu-bin, Park Tae-rim, and the purple-haired man gather together. They are addressed by a female voice, the owner of which is not visible around the players. After some time, a girl comes out to them, who is the head of the magic tower. A squabble ensues between her and the two players over their contact with Snake. The girl explains that Snake is in cahoots with a creature that poses a great threat to humanity. In response to the players' surprise, she announces their arrest until the circumstances are clarified. The man in purple and Park are put in restraints, and only the latter manages to remove them. After this, Park Tae-rim leaves the place, leaving behind the other guildmasters and the head of the magic tower. The girl uses magic to attack Park from behind, but he easily repels the attacks with his sword. However, this does not stop the girl, and she carries out another attack, forcing Park to strike back. Park Tae-rim swings his weapon to deliver the finishing blow, but Cheon Yu-bin throws his dagger, knocking the weapon away from Park. He assumes a fighting stance and states that he too is curious as to why Park met with Snake. Receiving no response from the Shield Guild Master, Cheon attacks him with his swift daggers. At this moment, near the entrance to the dungeon, Steve and Bong soon are waiting for the disguised Sis and Kim Ki-bong to join them. The system and Kim appear, but now they wear horse masks on their heads. Gathering together, the team moves into the open dungeon, attracting the attention of those around them. At this time, the blue portal changes its color to purple, and a message is sent to the players' phones that entry into the dungeons is prohibited. According to the report, some kind of anomaly occurred that affected all dungeons at all ranks. Later, another message arrives on Bong-soon's phone, asking all Korean players to double-check their ranks to access dungeons. At this time, Khan comes out of the portal with his assistants, telling people to move away from the portal. He declares that anyone who enters the dungeon now will die. Kim asks the system if she had anything to do with what happened, but she just says no. Steve suggests that they all go to a rank reassessment together, since the dungeon is not accessible to anyone, and the guys agree. After saying goodbye to Bong, Soon, and Steve, Kim and Sis want to explore the dungeon on their own, but they are not allowed. Kim slowly removed his mask in front of Han, but Han states that he doesn't know Kim, causing the protagonist to smile. Kim enters the portal with Sis, who uses her powers to erase Han and his comrades' memories of Kim and her. The boys try to understand what happened, but they can't remember anything, and tears appear in their eyes. Kim and the system enter the portal and find themselves in a destroyed city. Kim decides to explore the area from above and takes off with the system, noticing monsters. Sis states that each of the monsters has a boss rank, and Kim asks the system to take him to the most important one. With ease, Kim rushes forward, breaking through the flying monsters. After Sis locates the creature, Kim approaches and discovers a massive snake. Kim, however, simply punches right through him, killing the boss in a second. A little further on, they discover a strange egg, and the system calls it the main boss. Slowly, the egg begins to crack and a humanoid monster emerges from it. Once it fully appears, the system declares it to be an 8-star monster. Kim decides to test the monster's strength and approaches it, but the monster quickly attacks the main character. Despite its speed and intelligence, the monster is powerless against Kim when he hits it right in the head. The monster, however, survives the protagonist's blow, trying to crawl away. The system states that the monster is rapidly advancing in rank, and therefore needs to be finished off immediately. At this moment, Park Tae-rim and Cheon Yu-bin fight each other. The purple-haired man offers to remove his bonds, but the girl refuses, addressing him as the president. The park claims that it belongs to the government, and therefore does not intend to answer questions from the head of the magic tower. Watching the fight, the girl says that Snake wants to use the power of the monster he allied with to achieve his goal. Park and Cheon stop the fight, paying attention to the words spoken by the head of the magic tower. At this time, Lucia and Steve arrive for the re-evaluation of the ratings, where Yui and AKU are also present. It turns out that the new method of checking rank will be a duel with the judges, who are Ak and Yui. After a fight with ordinary people, whom the couple defeated extremely quickly, Kim Ki-bong enters the hall. He is later joined by Sis, and together they shock Yui quite a bit as they wear horse masks. The first thing they want to do is re-evaluate Kim's rank, and Ak challenges him to a fight. Kim asks AKA what rank is needed to get into the squad so that Kim can be allowed to help with the updated rifts. AK states that A rank is required, and also says that defeating him means that very rank. AK orders the fight to begin, but Kim, having made only the first move, terrifies his opponent. AK notices that he has unconsciously stepped back, and at that very moment Kim comes close to him. In a panic, Ak opens a momentary rift and pulls himself and Kim inside. Not understanding what's going on, Yui decides to check the system's rank for now. After a short conversation, Sis creates magic without any artifacts, surprising Yui. She manages to create an air barrier and defend herself from swift attacks. Yui asks if the system is connected to the magic tower, but it only looks at the girl questioningly. After this, Yui rushes at Sis, intending to show her her true power. However, Sis easily dispels Yui's magic and passes through the spell, prompting Yui to continue her attacks. Parrying another attack, Sis rushes at the spellcaster intending to punch her. Seeing that Yui only closed her eyes, Sis stops her strike, instead simply touching the girl's head. When the system asks if she passed the test, Yui hesitantly gives an affirmative answer. Finally, a rift opens and Ak emerges, falling onto his knee. Immediately after him, Kim appears, who according to AKA also passed the test. Yui concludes that their rank is equivalent to S rank, and accepts them into the ranks of a special squad called a raid squad. At this time, the man with purple hair comes to the place, the coordinates of which Snake gave him, where he meets Dragunov and others. One of Snake's henchmen treated the man rudely, causing him to begin attacking the crowd with his magic. All this time, Snake and Dragunov just watched what was happening, until the man began to threaten them as well. Using an unknown spell, Snake dispels the boy's attack magic, forcing him to calm down. After some small talk, Snake uses strange magic and the man falls to his knees, clutching his head. Memories erased by the system began to return to him, tearing him apart from the inside. Snake states that these are not all the memories, and offers to join him in order to fully restore his memory. At this point, disguised Kim and Sis meet with Steve and Lucia after the rank check. Steve and Bong soon announce that they have passed the test, and Lucia is surprised to learn that Kim and Sis have also been accepted into the squad. Steve and Bong soon are approached by their judge and asked if they are in any guilds, to which Steve gives her his business card. Kim and Sis also give their business cards, and it turns out that all four are members of the same guild called Animal Farm. Understanding the whole situation, Steve pretends that it was he who invited Kim and Sis. The judge, who is a player nicknamed Cold-Blooded Witch, calls all four players to a raid. At this time, Ak and Yui are talking to each other, and the girl is calming her boyfriend down after his defeat. The Cold-Blooded Witch, who turns out to be Yui's sister named Yu Hyun, enters the hall, accompanied by Kim and Sis. Ak really wants to challenge Kim, but he feels his animal fear. The players around them, however, do not take Kim and Sis seriously because of their masks, laughing at them. They throw mud at the judges who tested the heroes, which really hurts AKA. Clutching his spear, he heads towards the crowd without further ado. After Ak respectfully asked the men to calm down, they rushed at him with their fists. AK easily avoids the blow by knocking the man off his feet with his spear. He says that he could not touch a hair on the man with the horse's head and points his spear at him, saying that he wants to fight again later. Kim Ki-bong agrees, which makes AKA genuinely happy until they are interrupted by a man calling all the players to a briefing. The raid's target is a Class 8 blue crystal monster, which is considered very dangerous. The announcer compares him to a fire dragon, but is unable to answer the player's question about who defeated the dragon due to his altered memory. However, he states that this only proves humanity's ability to defeat 8-star monsters. Park and Cheon tell the crowd that there was another case of hunting such monsters in which they were victorious. He is asked to confirm his words, to which Cheon Yu-bin thinks for a short moment. He points his hand at AKA and Yui, calling them witnesses and participants in that battle, which shuts up the crowd. Despite the small argument, Chun invites the guy who was arguing to join him on the raid. Cheon is asked what he fought for last time, and he answers evasively, which captures Park's attention. Park Tae-rim, unlike Cheon, remembers everything that happened and slowly turns to Kim and Sis. With so many thoughts in his head, he drops his sword, then picks up the weapon and leaves. At this time, Mai Bio, who is the target of the raid, is hunting for people in the snow. He mercilessly kills all the people he meets on his way. Several players come to the aid of the people, who intend to buy some time for the civilians to escape. Mai Bio, also known as Prozuna, quickly moves towards players, giving them no chance to react. After just a few seconds, all the players are lying in the snow, killed by monsters. On the other side of the world, people open several teleportation circles to get to the raid. The assembled guildmasters and players discuss their battle plan against Prozuna. The head of the Russian guild listens reproachfully to players from neighboring countries, but they try to calm him down. At this time, the observer players notice a tornado moving straight towards the tower. It turns out that the whirlwind was caused by numerous monsters supporting Prozuna, which greatly surprises the players. After failing to deal with the monsters using military equipment, the players gather together and go into battle. Kim Ki-bong wants to join the battle, but the system stops him, telling her to handle it herself. Sis decides to make Bong-soon the heroine of the battle, and so imbues her with her magic. Lucia's new speed is so great that she easily catches up with the cold-blooded witch. With a swing of his fire sword, Bong-soon easily takes out his first monster. Steve notices Bong-soon's strength, genuinely surprised at how powerful she has become. He turns to Kim and realizes that it was his doing, which makes Steve feel a little sad. At this moment, Lucia and the cold-blooded witch destroy the monsters together. Bong-soon yells at Steve to strengthen her, but due to the distance, she can't reach him. At this time, a meeting is taking place in the Blue Dragon Guild. The guildmaster asks his advisors if they should participate in the raid, to which he receives affirmative answers. At this moment, monsters attack Bong-soon, and her sword is firmly stuck in one of the monsters' bodies. Kim Ki-bong immediately comes to her aid, quickly dealing with the enemy. Thanks to the power of the system, the flames overflow into Bong-soon's sword, raising the fire incredibly high. Prozuna, who is in the distance, notices the flames from Lucia's sword. At this moment, Bong-soon and the guys return to the base, and behind her back they discuss her as an S-rank player. However, many people realize that an unknown high-ranking player is a great chance for recruitment. Steve protects Lucia from annoying people by covering her with his body. Later, Bong-soon and Steve are alone, and Lucia is surprised at how much she thinks Steve's abilities have improved. Realizing that Steve can't reveal Kim and Sis's secret, he continues to pretend that it was really his doing. He wonders if he should send a report about them to the US, since their original mission was to gather information about Korea. After thinking about it, he decides for himself that he doesn't want to report anything. Bong-soon says that she finds the man in the horse mask suspicious, but Steve pretends not to understand her. A little later, Sis and Kim enter the room, and Bong-soon asks Kim directly how he got in front of her so quickly. She suspects that the man in the horse mask is hiding his abilities, and asks him to tell her everything about himself. However, the disguised Kim states that it was Steve's magic that made him so strong. At this moment, the Blue Dragon Guild leader meets with Prime Minister Gu Sengren. She asks if his guild wants to take part in the raid, to which the man asks her about the lost memories. Gu pretends not to understand what is being said, but the guild leader notices her doubts in her answers. She stops pretending and openly suggests that it was Snake who told the man everything. A verbal altercation begins between the parties, which leads to threats of magic. Suddenly, Gu Sengren attacked the guildmaster with his sword, surprising him greatly. It turns out that her attack was aimed at Snake and Dragunov, who dared to show up in her office. The Blue Dragon Guild leader realizes that he was only used to get close to the Prime Minister. Despite the noticeable difference in numbers, Gu does not back down from Snake. A battle begins between them that quickly spills beyond the office. At this point, Steve, Lucia, and the other players continue to explore the snowy mountains. Because Bong-soon seemed strong to everyone, she and Steve were put in charge of the squad. A man suddenly approaches them and offers to join his guild, calling Kim and Sis, who are walking behind them, trash. The main character rudely addresses him and tells him to go away, which causes fear in the guy. Bong-soon decides to intervene and says that she will drop by their guild after the raid, after which the man quickly leaves, and she is pestered by other recruiters. Kim and System talk to each other, and Sis suggests that Kim not interfere, because Bong-soon has her own life. Seeing Bong-soon's happy face, Kim agrees with the System. At this point, Snake successfully defends against all of Gu Sengren's attacks. The Prime Minister attacks with stronger magic, but Dragunov intervenes, summoning a force shield. Deciding not to delay any longer, Gu Sengren unleashes his full magical potential. At the speed of light, she rushes into the attack, intending to cause as much damage as possible with her blow. Dragunov, however, simply teleports himself and his team a short distance. Snake and Dragunov praise Gu Sengren, but the old man declares that he will kill her with his own hands. After being attacked by Snake, the Prime Minister loses his ability to fly and falls to the ground. She fails to use her flight spell and lands in a crowd of people. She orders the people to run away until she is interrupted by the appearance of Snake. After a short conversation, the old man sets his retinue on the girl. At the same time, night falls in the mountains, and Yui summons a small campfire. Players gather together to warm themselves around a fire and regain their strength. Yui states that the Prime Minister has not been in touch, even though Yui always discusses the situation on the battlefield with her. Park Tae-rim and Cheon Yu-bin approach the bonfire, stating that they may encounter Pranuza as early as tomorrow. He says that most players will be going up against Prazuna's army, and only a few players will be attacking the boss. Cheon announces that everyone gathered here will participate in the attack on the boss. Bong Soon doubts their success, but Park and Cheon assure them that they will be able to defeat their enemy. Park Tae-rim, in response to Lucia's doubts, only says that she doesn't know anything, after which he walks away, looking at Kim one last time. Bong Soon wants to talk to Park, but she is stopped by Cheon, who praises her success on the battlefield. They shake hands, agreeing to cover each other in battle. Steve notices out of the corner of his eye that Kim is angry at how nice Chun is to his sister. Cheon directly asks Park what he is hiding, but the Shield Guild Master only says that Cheon will find out when the time comes. Park Tae-rim learns that the Prime Minister has still not been contacted, and Park suspects that Snake is involved. To begin with, the guys decide that they should complete the raid as quickly as possible. At this time, a girl from the Magic Tower named Song Il-young meets Kang Hui in the forest. She says she came to ask the sacred animal for help. Kan says that sacred animals do not interfere in human affairs, but for a second he gets a sharp headache. After several more requests, Kang Hui agrees to help Song, but for his own reason. He wants to find out why he gets a headache from thinking about the human world, which shocks Sun for a second. At this moment, the scouts report to Chan that Prazuna's legion is 3 kilometers away. The remaining players engage in battle with Prazuna's legion, giving the protagonists the opportunity to deal with the boss. Park Tae-rim is the first to rush into battle, and Yui strengthens his body with her magic. After a brief exchange of blows, Prazuna sends the Shield Guild Master flying. After landing, Park returns to the battle, and this time he is assisted by the rest of the heroes, including Bong Soon. Kim and Sis simply stand aside, and the system assumes that the players will lose to Prazuna. Kang Hui and Song Il arrive in the city, and the girl notices that the sacred animal's face does not show surprise from its first time in the city. The girl uses detection magic, and having found her target, teleports herself and Khan. Prazuna's strength is enough to break through Park Tae-rim's sword. In response, Cold-Blooded Witch and Cheon Yu-bin attack the enemy together. However, the monster manages to injure them all with ice magic, forcing them to pause the fight. Cold-Blooded Witch asks Yui how they managed to defeat the fire dragon, to which she only replies that she doesn't remember. AK offers to take Prazuna to his pocket dungeon and seal him there. In response, Park looks back and turns to Kim, who has been standing to the side this whole time, calling him into battle. Kim is genuinely surprised that Park Tae-rim knows the main character. Park addresses the protagonist by name, which shocks Bong Soon, who is standing nearby. Bong Soon doesn't understand what's going on, and then Kim takes off his mask, revealing his face. At this point, Prazuna attacks again, and Yui creates a protective dome over the players. After Yui is injured by one of the ice chunks, Park angrily asks if Kim will continue to stand aside. Kim Ki-bong slowly makes his way towards Prazuna despite his sister's pleas to stay under the dome. Park Tae-rim tells her that it is not Kim who is in danger now, but the monster he will be fighting. Approaching Prazuna, Kim asks why he decided to crawl out of his hole. Not hearing an adequate answer, the protagonist uses physical reinforcement. Kim swings his sword and destroys the boulder flying at him, turning it into dust. The main character does not hesitate and strikes the enemy directly, killing him with one blow. Kang Hui and Sung Il find Snake's men, and next to them is the head of the Blue Dragon Guild. Snake quickly creates a teleportation circle and successfully escapes with his allies, parrying Khan's swift attack. However, Kanu manages to grab a piece of cloth from Snake's clothing, and he sets out to track down the enemy. At this moment, Kim returns to the guys, and Bong Soon begins to cry, because she thought that Kim would not cope with the enemy. After some time, the players arrive at the airport, where journalists vied with each other to ask them about the raid. They ask who exactly killed Prazuna, but the players open up to answer the question. A few seconds later, Park points to Kim and claims that he was the one who defeated Prazuna. Reporters immediately flock to him, vying with each other to ask questions. Bong Soon stands to the side and still can't believe the situation with his brother. After studying the people's reactions to what happened, Snake concludes that Kim Ki-bong has decided to take action. Arriving home, Bong Soon talks to Kim, trying to understand why he hid everything. Bong Soon leaves Kim and he tries to find her outside, but finds Kang Hui. Sun appears in front of him and asks Kim to let Kang go, but when he refuses, he attacks the protagonist. Kim Ki-bong easily blocks her magic, surprising both the girl and the sacred animal. The dream tries to get closer to the main character, but he uses fear magic and stops it. Song-il uses bond magic and binds Kim's limbs, preventing him from moving. Kim quickly breaks free and approaches Song, but Kang stops him, telling him not to touch the girl, and Kim suddenly attacks his former friend. After telling Khan that he hasn't changed a bit, Kim continues to attack the sacred animal. Kang continues to beg Kim not to touch the girl from the magic tower, promising not to touch the main character. With all his might, Khan kicks the protagonist but only hurts himself. Deciding to teach Kang a lesson, Kim Ki-bong, with an angry face, hits his opponent right on the head. He later interrogates Song-il and Kang Hui, trying to find out the reason for their appearance. The girl tries to explain that the Prime Minister was attacked and kidnapped by unknown persons, which unpleasantly surprises Kim. Sun tells Kim that Snake is involved, who is a dangerous S-class mage from England who is collaborating with the monster. The information he received enrages Kim, causing fear to appear on Kang and Song's faces. He commands them to start searching and decides to go with them. Kim Ki-bong leans over to Kang and asks him to find an agent named Kuju-ai, who had increased the powers of a sacred animal in the past. Everything that happens is silently monitored by a system located on the roof of a nearby building. At this time, Snake is sitting alone in some hut, and blood starts coming out of his mouth. This happened because the old man tried to look inside some incredibly powerful creature with his magic. Unable to find Bong Soon, Kim uses physical reinforcement and then flies into the air. Kang Hui and Sung Il discuss what happened, and Kang states that even with all his strength, he cannot defeat Kim. The girl is surprised, but accepts this fact after she notices the main character flying in the air. At this time, System is drinking tea in the house, but Bong Soon comes up to her from behind and asks where Kim Ki-bong is. Sitting down next to him, Lucia asks what the System's relationship is with Kim. The System directly states that there is a very close connection between them, which shocks Bong Soon. She asks how Kim gained such great power, and the System tells her what the protagonist had to go through. However, she does not give all the details, saying that it is better to talk about this with Kim himself. At this moment, Kim is still looking for Bong Soon when suddenly he is attacked by a red beam. For the first time in a long time, Kim gets a real wound. Kim says Sis's name and she appears next to him, after which he asks her to track the passing beam. The System tracks the beam, and it turns out that it was fired by Jot Rez from a distance of 400 kilometers. In response, Kim summons his own beam, directing it straight at the enemy in the distance. The force of his attack is so great that the dishes in the house where Bong Soon is located begin to shake. The beam reaches the monster, and it activates a magical barrier for protection, after which it disappears. Kim decides that he and the System should now find Gu Sengren, who has been kidnapped. Although no one was officially informed, people gradually began to notice the disappearance of the Prime Minister. Khan notes that traces of a battle were found at the place where she disappeared, and therefore she could not have disappeared on her own. He understands that if other countries find out about this, they will want to get the magical stones that only appear in Korea. He receives a message from intelligence on his phone, and Khan heads to the received coordinates with his squad. After some time, they arrive at a strange building in the forest, where they are met by a man. He suddenly raises the alarm and blows his whistle, after which Khan throws him to the ground. Han asks if Gu Sengren is here now, but the man asks the hunter to speak English. At first thinking that the tip was a mistake, Han notices too late that a male cyborg has appeared. One of Khan's subordinates wants to interrogate the guy who appeared, but is unable to move him from his place. In response, the cyborg grabs the soldier by the chest and lifts him up with one hand, then throws him to the ground. Immediately after this, the cyborg calls his soldiers, ordering them to capture Khan's squad. Khan understands that he and his soldiers will not be able to deal with the enemies that have appeared. Seeing no other way out, Khan promises to return with reinforcements and flees the battlefield in haste. However, he is caught and begins to be brutally beaten. Unexpectedly, Khan is saved by animals who disassemble the attackers into metal parts, and Khan himself sees Ku, nicknamed the Tamer. He asks the girl for help, and the agent agrees, ordering his animals to provide support. At this time, Bong Soon asks where Kim is going, but he does not give a clear answer, which angers his sister. He doesn't want to take her with him, to which Lucia suggests that he see her abilities in action. Kim agrees and Bong Soon attacks his brother, having received enhancements from Steve. She can't seem to hit Kim, so she uses her flaming sword to at least do some damage. She manages to touch Kim, but he simply knocks the sword out of her hands. An argument begins between them, and at this time someone in a mask approaches the captured soldiers. He gives the order to liquidate, and a winged monster attacks them from above. However, the creature is summoned and grabs one of Snake's henchmen, raising the rest of the crowd on their ears. The remaining enemies are attacked one by tamed animals. Finally, Han returns to the guys in the company of Ku, which restores the fighting spirit of the fighters. Ku senses an extremely strong energy approaching them, causing her to panic. She sends her animals to intercept them, but realizing that they have disappeared, she rushes into the forest to the summoned animals. However, it turns out that the source of the energy was Kang Hui, and Ku feels like they have met before. Ku also meets with the head of the magic tower, Song Il, who accompanied Kang. Ku contemplates taming the sacred animal in the form of Khan, but he interrupts her thoughts with a conversation. At this moment, Bong Soon and Steve are walking through the city, dragging a large amount of things behind them. They are accompanied by Kim Ki-bon and System, who walk slightly ahead. Kim talks to Sis and suggests that since they can't find the enemy, they'll force him to come to them. Bong Soon and Steve are surprised at how easily Kim suggests taking down 8-star bosses. The System uses its searching skills and scans all the dungeons on the planet, surprising Steve. She states that the nearest 8-star monster is in an open dungeon in Kaesong. The team of Ku, Kang, and Han approaches the building where Gu Sengren's trail ends. The head of the magic tower claims that Gu disappeared as if she had willingly followed the kidnappers. Q orders his animals to find the Prime Minister. Together with Khan, they pick up the trail, after which the whole team sets off on their journey. Meanwhile, Snake and Gu Sengren are talking in the tower, where the woman states that she still does not believe the old man's words. He says that his words will be confirmed in the very near future. Gu asks what's on Snake's mind, and he says he wants to completely free humanity. At this time, Steve and Lucia wander around the city, because their bodies will not be able to withstand the stress of the system's instant teleportation. On Bong-soon's orders, Steve scans the area and sees nothing but normal animals. Suddenly, Steve announces that he was able to read the energy of unidentified life forms. Bong-soon rushes into battle after receiving numerous power-ups from Steve. Lucia jumps behind a rock but only encounters 2 civilians there and falls next to them, avoiding being hit. They turn out to be ordinary homeless people who live in these ruins and ask the heroes for food. Bong-soon takes out a small piece of food from her supplies, and one of the homeless people quickly grabs it, stuffing it into his mouth. After a quick bite to eat, the homeless people are about to leave, asking the players to get out of here. All 4 hear a sound and Steve scans the area, seeing several ants. Steve assumes that it is the boss, which is made up of many ants that Kim warned them about. He tries to classify the monsters, but only concludes that ants are a level 5 threat. Bong-soon rushes into battle and uses her fire sword to cut through the ants, but one of them sneaks up behind her. However, she copes with all threats, saving the people behind her. At this time, Kim Ki-bong and System are traveling somewhere on the road, and Sis reports on Bong-soon's condition. Kim asks if her encounter with the ants is dangerous, but the System only chuckles. The System says that Kim is too worried about his sister, and he should worry about other people, including her. At this time, military men stop next to them and ask what Kim and Sis are doing here. The military threatens them to return and not to go north along the road. The military man says that the north is teeming with uncontrollable monsters, so it is dangerous to go there. After Kim's command, Sis approaches the military and erases their memories with her magic. At the same time, Bong-soon and Steve are running somewhere underground with 2 homeless people. Steve senses that there are a lot of ant monsters looking for them right now. They meet another group of survivors who have been hiding underground all this time. One of the men tells them that unlike South Korea, North Korea cannot protect itself from monsters. That is why North Korea, on whose soil the heroes set foot, is destroyed and entry into it is prohibited. The ceiling begins to shake, causing the refugees sitting underground to panic. Steve says that most of the people here are players who don't dare put up a fight. Monster ants run into the sewers and people start to panic. They try to fight off the monsters with improvised weapons, pipes, and bare hands. Steve scans the players again and is surprised to see that none of them have a combat class. They decide that it is necessary to help the people, and Bong-soon rushes into battle, receiving power-ups from Steve. The girl chops the ants into pieces, trying not to hit any of the players. By doing this, she raises the fighting spirit of the people, and they decide to continue the fight. After some time, all the ants are defeated, and people experience a pleasant shock. At this time, Song-il is standing on the roof of one of the buildings, thinking about the disappearance of Gu Sengren. Remotely, she addresses all members of the Magic Tower, ordering them to keep an eye on foreign players. Snake intercepts her mental message, speaking out loud to his ally. Snake concludes that Song-il must die because she is unwilling to cooperate. The old man offers the Blue Dragon Guildmaster to kill Sun, but he says that his abilities will not be enough. Snake agrees and suggests involving the guild, to which the guild leader reluctantly agrees. He asks Snake to assign him an S-rank player, and he agrees. Kim Ki-bong and the system arrive in North Korea, and Kim notices that there are no people in sight. Suddenly, Kim swings at Sis and stops her fist right in front of her face. It turned out that in this way he killed the enemy behind her. Steve scans the area and clutches his head, saying that he only sees red signals about enemies. He panics and declares that right now they are standing on a huge anthill. One by one, ants crawl out to the surface towards the people, and Bong-soon enters into battle with them. Steve says that every soldier ant they fight is a danger level 6. Bong-soon tries to strike with her sword, but she fails to hurt the insects. As soon as Lucia stopped, she was instantly surrounded by several enemies. Steve tries to help her, but suddenly all the ants are scattered by a huge flame. It turned out that this was a reinforcement from the system, which arrived at the scene with Kim. The ants attack the main characters, and the system creates a magical shield. Kim asks who all the people gathered around are, and Steve explains that they are North Korean players. A swarm of giant ants is heading towards the heroes, and the players prepare for battle. Kim attacks the ants gathered in a heap, wiping them off the face of the earth. The smoke clears and players see that there is no trace of the enemies left. People beg Kim to save them, and the system explains that they are most likely asking to be saved from other people. Kim asks Sis to take him to the enemies, but she states that there is a boss on the way. Kim is not stopped by this and decides to sort everything out as quickly as possible. At this time, Kang Hui, Song-il, and Ku, along with Han's squad, wander through the forest in search of Gu Sengren. They come across the head of the Blue Dragon Guild, his subordinates, and a certain female player. After talking for a bit, the man materializes his attack magic. The head of the magic tower, Sun, summons a protective dome around himself and his allies. However, the guild leader uses an earthquake spell, forcing Sun to dispel the barrier. At the last moment, she summons a reflective shield in the air, which saves her from damage. Sun tries to use gravity magic, but the other mages of the magic tower knock her out of the air. Enraged by the betrayal, Song-il uses a special triple magic. She summons a tornado of 3 elements and sends it at her enemies. A man with purple hair commands his subordinates to activate their shields. After the attacks, the Blue Dragon leader throws a magic stone towards Song, causing a cloud of dark smoke to appear. Ku shouts that they must not enter that smoke under any circumstances, and Sun uses wind magic to blow it away. She fails and ends up swallowed by black smoke where she meets the guild leader. The girl tries to create a protective dome, but it does not help at all against enemy attacks. Ku tries to rescue Song-il by calling on his animals. However, their path is blocked by an unknown female player who fights on the side of Snake's subordinates. She turns out to be an S-class Chinese martial artist named Shiran. Ku asks Kang Hui to help her, but the guy is attacked by someone from the air. At this moment, Kim, Bong-soon, Steve, and Sis continue to fight the ants in North Korea. The Queen Ant appears on the battlefield, furious that the protagonist dealt with her army. Bong-soon doubts his brother for a moment, but he suddenly flies into the air. In just one blow, he manages to deal with the Queen Ant, taking her life. Frightened, the remaining ants run away, leaving the players alone. Immediately after this, Kim Ki-bong orders the system to find all the people who are nearby. Kim approaches the rescued players, who bow their heads before him. He asks people to tell the truth about why they chose to live this life, because he understands that it is not just about monsters. The man, after hesitating for a second, says that he cannot confess to anything. One of the refugees tries to tell the whole truth himself, but the man forcibly shuts him up. Kim asks the guy to continue and learns that there are people here who hunt survivors. When Kim asks why they don't use their powers, the man says that people are holding their loved ones hostage. The man falls to his knees before the protagonist, begging him to help them. All the other players, who had been standing nearby until now, also kneel before Kim and ask him for help. Kim firmly asks to be taken to those who are holding the players' families hostage. Meanwhile, at a coal factory in North Korea, the captain of the Marauders communicates with his subordinates. As soon as the captain leaves, one of the subordinates notices the approaching players. They rush into battle, but stop after one of them is hit by Kim Ki-bong. The captain, alarmed by the noise, runs outside and meets Kim. The captain tries to talk some sense into the protagonist, but he pushes his opponent into the ground. He approaches the other criminals and asks who is the boss here. One of the men takes out a gun and points it at Kim Ki-bong. When he starts shooting, Kim catches the bullet without much effort. Concluding that his opponents are using weapons against people rather than monsters, Kim says that they do not deserve to live. He fires a bullet from his hand, which wounds the man who shot him. The remaining marauders rush at Kim Ki-bong, but are suddenly attacked from behind. A man comes out onto the field who is the leader of the local marauders. Kim asks if he has ever killed a single monster with the weapon, to which the man boasts that it is good at killing people. Steve notices with his own eyes that the man's machine gun is a magical artifact. Bong-soon is worried about his older brother, but the system states that the weapon will not cause him any harm. Kim asks why the man didn't go hunting monsters with such a weapon, which causes genuine laughter. He says that it is simply more profitable for him not to kill monsters than to force Kim to use physical enhancement. In fear, the man begins to shoot at Kim with magic bullets, but they do not cause any harm to the main character. Kim approaches him and, grabbing the enemy by the arm, breaks one of his legs. Without thinking, the main character swings and hits the man right in the face. Kim says that the enemy is still alive and suggests that the refugees deal with him themselves and take their revenge. Not expecting this, people angrily approach the man, arranging lynching. One of the refugees approaches Kim and bows before him, thanking him for his help. Kim asks about their next destination, and Sis tells him they are heading to the East China Sea. At this moment, Snake and Jot Rez are hovering above the sea, communicating with each other. After finishing the short conversation, Jot Rez uses teleportation magic and walks away. In parallel, Kim moves towards his goal, destroying all the monsters in his path. Steve says that if a monster equal to Kim in strength appears, then people will face destruction. Bong-soon asks Kim why he tries so hard for strangers. Lucia explains that she only survived thanks to the kind of help that Kim is now providing. The system interrupts them and says that 2 enemies have appeared with identification numbers 0 and 1. Kim says that number 0 was the creature that hovered over the sea. The system adds that the number 1 is the person who came into contact with this monster. Kim asks where to go next, and Sis suggests going to China because of the large number of monsters. At this moment, the battle between the Blue Dragon Guild, Khan, Ku, and Song continues. The guild leader orders the S-rank girl to deal with the sacred animal, while he decides to deal with Sun. Kana is distracted by the guild members and is captured by a female player. Ku decides to use his bracelet to help Khan. She charges him with energy, and Khan easily breaks the hold. He quickly transforms into his animal form, shocking the guildmaster. The man says out loud that he was sure that all the sacred animals were extinct, and Khan suggests that he retreat. Confident, the female player rushes at Khan from behind, but he, however, has no intention of showing mercy, inflicting a deep wound with his claws. The blow easily cuts the player's skin, causing them to lose consciousness and fall to the ground. The guild leader, realizing that they have no chance, approaches Kanu and bows his head before him, asking for mercy. He asks for forgiveness and orders his allies to leave, and Sun tries to stop him. Ku grabs the head of the magic tower by the hand, saying that they too are exhausted and need to rest. Ku says out loud that the Prime Minister might have left them on purpose. Kan, however, asks the girls not to jump to conclusions, to which they agree. At this moment, the news tells South Koreans that refugees from the north are arriving in their country. Park Tae-rim follows the news and understands that this is Kim's doing. He talks to his subordinate, accusing him of still not being able to remember anything. At this moment, Steve, Lucia, Kim, and Sis find themselves in China via intercontinental teleportation. The system tells Kim that there is a monster with the 8th rank of danger right here. Kim suggests splitting up and finding the monster hiding in Beijing. At this time, a girl player named Ling Ling is training in one of the temples. A teacher named Mu Baek approaches her, asking her to call him Grandpa, and tells her that she has already surpassed A rank. He motivates Ling Ling with his story of how he went from B rank to S rank. He also says that there are so many high-ranking players in China because their martial arts match well with the player's strength. The girl asks the man about the location of the next hunt, and he says that the hunt will be for a high-ranking monster. Meanwhile, Bong Soon and Steve try to find the monster, and Steve takes out the navigation sphere that Sis gave him. They approach the food counter and the sphere begins to glow, as if it has noticed the monster's energy. It turned out that the sphere reacted to Ling Ling, who accidentally ended up close to the players. They talk to each other, and Ling Ling says that in China people don't call themselves players, but warriors. Seeing Lucia and Steve's hesitant looks, Lin Lin invites them to join them. Bong Sun agrees, hoping to gain more information about China's warriors. Ling Ling notices the burning sphere in Steve's hands, and he tells her that there may be a monster nearby. Together they come to the conclusion that the sphere given to them by the system is broken. Later the trio arrive at Lin Lin's wealthy home, where she asks Bong Soon for a duel. Bong Soon immediately agrees and the girls take their positions in the arena. Lucia doesn't know how Ling Ling will act, so she decides to attack first. However, the girl blocks Bong Soon's strike with her sword, nearly knocking her off her feet. At this point, Kim Ki-bong asks the system if it's true that it doesn't know where the monster is now. She says she doesn't know, and Kim notices that more and more strange things have been happening lately. Suddenly, they find a crowd of men robbing an old man, and Kim intervenes. One of the robbers puts his hand on Kim's shoulder, and he instantly pushes him aside. In a second, he deals with the remaining people, and the old man, feeling fear, expresses his gratitude to him. The old man says that he would like to repay for the help he received and invites Kim and Sis to visit his house. At this moment, the battle between Ling Ling and Bong Soon continues. Bong Soon notices that her left leg can't move, and at that moment, Ling Ling attacks again. She throws Lucia back and, not noticing her new interesting skills, suggests ending the fight. Ling Ling says that the players didn't live up to her expectations, which hurts Bong Soon a little. In response, Ling Ling punches a wall in the distance, saying that warriors are different from players. Bong Soon says that she is ready to show her the strength of the players and asks Steve to strengthen her. She asks Steve to use some special power-up, after which she attacks Ling Ling. The Chinese girl tries to counterattack, but Bong Soon gets behind her thanks to his incredible speed. With her sword, she ruins Ling Ling's clothes, causing her to become angry. Ling Ling acknowledges Lucia's strength, but refuses to give up and attacks Kim's sister again. Finally, Kim Ki-bong, the system, and the old man approach the latter's house. They notice the energy inside the house, and the system tells Kim that his sister is there. After this, Kim, ignoring the old man's words, breaks through the wall of the house with his fist. The old man runs inside and sees Kim stopping Ling Ling's blow to prevent her from hurting his sister. Kim asks the old man if he invited him to watch this fight, but the old man says it's just a misunderstanding. The old man tries to remove Kim's hand from Ling Ling, and Kim says that the old man's show of force is not making a good impression. The old man tries to remove the protagonist's hand again, and Kim turns on the physical reinforcement, telling the old man to fight seriously. This makes the man laugh, and he says that everyone who asked him to fight at full strength is already dead. He manages to hit Kim and cut off his hair, after which the protagonist throws the old man into the wall. The old man calls Kim a talented young man and asks where he came from. Kim refuses to answer, and the old man assumes a fighting stance and then rushes into battle. He punches Kim and he staggers back. The old man thought he had dealt with Kim and turned away, but Ling Ling asks his grandfather to look back where the protagonist is standing. Kim tries to hit the old man first, but he somehow dodges the attack. The old man rushes into battle, saying that technique is more important than brute force. Kim and Mu Baek fight, damaging things around them in the process. They hit each other, and the energy from the blow is so great that Bong Soon and Steve have to cover themselves. The old man falls to his knees and Kim wants to deliver the finishing blow, but Lin Lin stands between him and Mu Baek. She asks for mercy for her grandfather, and Steve turns his attention to the detection sphere, which has begun to glow again. Kim is about to leave the place with Bong-soon and Steve, but Mu-baek says he has a favor to ask. At first, Kim is hesitant, but Sis tells him that there is a monster nearby that is more dangerous than the 8-star bosses. This is enough to convince Kim, and he and Mu-baek meet inside the house. The old man says that there is a monster that he really wants to capture, but the warriors are not able to do so. Later, Bong-soon and Steve discuss how Lin and Mu-baek, who are S-ranked, were unable to capture the monster themselves. The old man says that the masters from the continent are already on their way, and as soon as everyone gathers, they will begin the raid. Kim says there is no need to wait for the masters and suggests going with the current team. Kim asks Sis what kind of monster it could be, but she is unable to answer him. Finally, having gathered together with other warriors, the detachment sets out on a raid. After some time, the squad approaches the cave, and the old man says that there have already been several attempts to destroy this place. Everyone goes inside the cave, but Bong-soon and Steve block the passage on Kim's orders. The four enter deeper into the cave, and Sis states that a life form is approaching. A man comes out of the darkness towards them, who doesn't look like a monster at all. Ling calls him Lord Sajo, and Mu-baek bows to him. She opens her travel bag and gives it to Sayo, from which he takes food. After this, Sajo turns to Mu-baek, asking if he is finally ready to bury him. Mu-baek states that he wants to wipe the shame off the face of martial arts, as they could have become stronger without the intervention of a certain being. Sis tells Kim that Sajo has the same energy as Jot Risa. At this moment, Sajo transforms, taking on the appearance of a monster. Standing outside, Steve and Bong soon notice that the sphere has begun to glow brightly again. Sajo tries to strike Kim Ki-bong with his sword, but he simply blocks the blow. This does not stop the monster, and he begins to swing his sword at great speed. The cave ceiling begins to collapse, and Kim orders Sis to raise the protective dome. Kim decides to stop dodging and strikes Sajo, causing an earthquake that reaches Bong-soon and Steve. They look up and see Kim Ki-bong and Sajo hovering. Noticing Sajo, the warriors on the ground turn to him, which angers the monster, and he attacks them from afar. After the warriors fall to the ground in pain, he takes away their weapons. He spins his swords, attacking Kim Ki-bong with them, and the protagonist stops them with his palm. Then the monster attacks the main character again, but he manages to avoid all hits. Sis notes that Sajo is clearly stronger than most 8-star monsters. Kim states that he will never increase his power in the same way that Sajo chose. The protagonist dodges another blow from the monster, and its attack destroys the ground beneath them. Kim teleports behind the opponent and punches him right in the face. The impact sends Sajo falling to the ground, raising a huge column of dust. Kim Ki-bong lands next to the prone enemy and asks why he needs such power. Instead of answering, Sajo rushes to attack, but Kim kicks him away. Sajo laughs and his body is enveloped in red energy, further increasing his power. He stands up, becoming a man, and says that this is the power he desired. Despite the transformation, Sis calls Sajo a monster, which incurs Mu-baek's wrath. Kim tells Mu-baek to stop, because what kind of master is Sajo if he kills his students? Kim hits Sajo, but Sajo stops Kim's punch. Mu-baek and Ling tell the system to beg for mercy from Sajo. Sis says that it is unlikely that Sajo will keep his word of mercy, since he killed his own students. Sajo becomes faster, and Kim doesn't have time to completely dodge the blow. Sajo attacks several more times, but the protagonist deliberately does not dodge the attacks. The enemy tells Kim that Kim was just lucky to gain such power, which angers the hero. He hits Sajo, leaving a huge mark on his body. Kim wants to finish off the enemy, but Mu-baek and Lin try to stop him. The old man says that he will not watch from the sidelines as Sajo is killed. Kim asks if the old man knows that the power of martial arts makes them monsters, and he nods. The protagonist asks if Mu-baek really believes that he can control such power. Sajo, seeing Kim's desire to kill Mu-baek and Lin, asks to kill only him. The old man and Ling run up to him, but Sajo touches their bodies, absorbing their power. Kim attacks Sajo, piercing his body through and through. The old man quickly rises from the ground, not believing that his teachers have defeated him. Kim says he has no obligation to forgive those who have abandoned their humanity. Mu-baek asks for forgiveness from Ling because he knew that they would turn into monsters. The old man tries to convince that all this was for the sake of humanity. Kim notes that none of the Chinese warriors were present during the raid on Prozuna and during the disasters in Korea. Finally, Mu-baek admits that he just wanted to become stronger. He attempts to commit suicide, but his hand is stopped by the system's magic. She says that Sajo took all their power before he died, so they won't turn into monsters. Kim asks if the old man has any regrets, and he says no. Kim wants to leave, but the old man asks him to take Ling with him. He asks the girl to learn from the players and believes that she will become stronger. The system and Bong soon give their consent, which forces Kim to accept the new team member. In response to this, the old man is so grateful to Kim that he bursts into tears. At this time, Snake meets with the head of the Blue Dragon Guild. The criminal says that unusual creatures are appearing more and more often. The leader apologizes to Snake for failing with Kang Hui, but Snake reassures him. High-ranking officials from various countries are emerging from the shadows. The guild leader says that their presence could start a war, but Snake doesn't see a problem with that. Finally, Gu Sung-ryong, the Prime Minister of South Korea, comes out. Snake tells the Prime Minister that he has no choice but to burn the soil of South Korea. After leaving Snake, Gu freaks out, as she was just planning to watch. One of the people comes to the noise, but does not find Gu in the office, because she used invisibility magic. She's trying to figure out why she started this game in the first place. Snake talks to the other Prime Ministers and says that they need to convince Gu that he made the right choice. He adds that it is possible to force her to join his forces. A conflict begins between the guild leader and one of the Prime Ministers, but Snake quickly calms them down. The guild leader asks Snake what his plan is. In response, the elderly man uses magic to show the assembled people a destroyed city. Only after entering the illusion do people find themselves surrounded by monsters. A fierce battle begins between the sides. After finishing the battle, the guild leader sees new monsters being led by Kim, Bong-soon, Park, and Kang. Snake removes the lead and assures that Kim Ki-bong is one of the 2 pillars that must be destroyed. He asks people to stop doubting and says that this is the very reason Gu joined them. At this time, Gu asks herself if what Snake showed her was the truth. She understands that this definitely cannot be a magic trick. Gu Sengren suddenly noticed a search spell in front of him. To avoid detection, she instantly uses teleportation magic. Meanwhile, in Japan, the team continues their journey. Bong soon asks what they are doing here, and Sis says that Kim will only return after he defeats all the monsters. Steve is amazed by Sis's magic, and she asks if he wants to learn. Genuinely happy, Steve agrees, and Sis says that she will take over his training. At this moment, a teleportation circle appears in front of them. Players teleport to them and say that they are not happy with Kim clearing the dungeons, as he is taking away their work. Bong soon recognizes one of the women, whom she calls the priestess of the battlefield. She says that even the Shield Guild didn't dare interfere with Japan. Kim didn't take her seriously and the girl attacks him. Although she struck, she failed to harm Kim. The girl is so confident in herself that she grabs the sword again. She notices that on a subconscious level she has grabbed for a weapon. She tries to justify her actions by saying that Kim is clearing out all the dungeons. The girl understands that she only wants to defeat the main character. Kim Ki-bong asks why she went silent. The girl says that her name is Eureka and asks for forgiveness for her behavior. Kim asks her why she controls the dungeons. She replies that it was because of the items that dropped in them, but Kim says that none of them were taken. Lin Lin intervenes in the conversation and apologizes to Eureka. In response, Eureka apologizes to the team for attacking them. Kim and the others want to leave, and Eureka tells her subordinates to let them through. After the main characters leave, Eureka tells her subordinates not to attack Kim under any circumstances. She receives an emergency message on her device. Sis tells Kim that a huge magical force is now moving in the strait between Korea and Japan. She adds that it clearly cannot be one person. The system says that all the monsters in the sea between the countries have stirred and will be pushed back onto land. Kim asks to open the portal immediately, but Sis says that nothing will work because Korea has strengthened the barrier around the country. Yumika arrives at the coast and sees many monsters in the sea. The monsters are furiously rushing towards the shore, wanting to destroy people. Suddenly, someone starts attacking them from behind Yumika. She looks around and sees a lot of military equipment behind her. Yumiko gives the order to engage in combat and inflict as much damage on the enemy as possible. The Japanese are trying their best to deal with the monsters around them. At this moment, Bong-soon looks at Steve and asks if he smells blood. When Sis says that people are fighting monsters ahead, Kim says that they don't have time for that. At the same time, the Japanese continue to hold back the enemy's onslaught. Eureka orders to stand to the death, otherwise the monsters will attack the city. Mashirawa, her ally, tells her that reinforcements will not be able to arrive. However, he says that the situation in South Korea is much worse, and high-ranking monsters are heading there. Eureka asks why he is so happy, and he says that advancing to Korea was always Eureka's goal. They are distracted from their conversation by the appearance of monsters, and the heroes defend themselves. Each of the players understood that only death awaited them. Eureka notices that they were attacked by 3 7-rank monsters. Suddenly, Kim appears in front of Eureka, and she immediately asks him for help. Kim, however, asks why he should do that, and Eureka says that she will help him in return. She tells Kim that she will help South Korea, but he says there is no need. Kim strikes one of the monsters, wiping it out of existence. After this, the main character quickly rises into the air towards one of the enemies. He jumps on the monster's head and tells his allies to climb up to him. Having taken control of the monster, they travel to South Korea riding on it. At this time, military forces are gathering in Busan to repel the attack of monsters. The commander of the troops, however, is confident that the people will not be able to survive this battle. He prepares his weapon, which is charged with mana. On the order of the commander, the artillery begins to fire. Spider monsters flank the people, avoiding the fire of the vehicles. The commander manages to deal with the enemy using magical weapons. According to the system, the fact that all the monsters are flocking to South Korea is not natural. According to her, someone used magic to attract the monsters. Sis says whoever did this was out to kill their team. Finally, the main characters approach South Korea. Kim decides to go first and flies into the air. Almost immediately, he encounters a pack of flying monsters on his way. He simply flies through them, killing one after another. At this moment, the military continues to fight the monsters. One of the soldiers reports that half of the civilians have already been evacuated. The colonel remembers Kim Ki-bong for a moment and gets a headache. He feels like he encountered an S-rank player in the past who saved everyone. At this moment, a monster approaches the colonel from behind. He doesn't have time to react before the monster is suddenly torn to pieces. Kim Ki-bong himself appears before the military. The colonel asks the protagonist who he is, and Kim introduces himself. After learning about the situation, Kim asks to try to hold out as long as possible. Immediately after these words, he leaves the colonel alone. In turn, the man notices that Kim looks familiar to him. Together with another soldier, the colonel hopes that Kim will destroy the high-ranking monsters. Kim looks down on the city from above, seeing hordes of monsters on the roads. He attacks them from afar, leaving no stone unturned of the enemy. Kim promises himself that he will definitely kill all the monsters. At this time, Gu Sengren decides to deal with Snake after solving the problem of attacking Korea. Ku enters her office and the Prime Minister uses an invisibility spell. However, Kang Hui approaches her, trying to catch the Prime Minister's trail. A second later, he turns to her happily, looking straight into her eyes. The head of the magic tower also enters the room as Kang Hui points at Gu Sengren. Gu decides that he needs to leave quickly before the others figure out what's going on. Ku addresses her as a sister and says that he knows Gu is here. She asks the Prime Minister to explain why she is doing this. After this, Gu removes his invisibility spell. She asks Khan and Ku to explain why they were looking for her like that. The head of the magic tower asks Gu if she has sided with the enemy. In response, Gu says that she would never betray South Korea. However, she says that she shares the same will with Snake. Ku-ji and the head of the magic tower were stunned by this answer. Gu says that although Snake is overstepping the mark, there is truth in his words. She claims to have seen the future of humanity with her own eyes. The head of the magic tower does not want to believe it and says that Snake deceived her. In response, Gu says that she is also a magician and would be able to distinguish truth from lies. The Prime Minister explains that in the future she saw, the entire world was on fire because of just one creature. At this moment, Bong-soon is fighting monsters. She puts all her strength into the blow and takes away the enemy's eye. She is supported by Ling Ling, who destroys the monster's tendons on its legs. Steve powers up Bong-soon, who attacks the monster again with great speed. Finally, she plunges her blade into the monster's skull, killing it. The team successfully manages to deal with the rank 7 monster. Bong-soon admits that thanks to Kim, she became stronger. Ling Ling also became stronger, saying that her eyes began to see a wider picture. Bong-soon says that they only have to hold out for a little while longer, since reinforcements are already close. At this point, Kim asks Sis why the monsters are targeting South Korea. Sis says she doesn't know for sure. Kim Ki-bean understands that now even ordinary people are able to resist monsters. This has not been possible for decades, and this fact surprises the system. Kim believes that killing innocent people is unforgivable. The main character asks to find him strong monsters to fight. In response, the system points to a huge dinosaur that has a threat level of 8. At this moment, Snake watches what is happening along with his allies. One of his subordinates asks if the attack is going too slowly, but Snake reassures him. While in the Prime Minister's office, Song-il asks if Gu really wants to sacrifice innocent people. Gu tries to say that the army will help them, but Song shows the corpses of the victims of the attack on Korea. In response, the Prime Minister snaps, asking what she should do then. Song only says that the Prime Minister in front of her is no longer the same one Song knew before. After this, the three of them leave Gu alone in her office. She, after some time, uses magic to communicate. Gu orders the Shield Guild to stand up for the innocent citizens. Gu asks herself what Kang Hui is doing in the human world again. At this time, Cheon Yu-bin fights monsters with his guildmates. He commands to direct all negative emotions towards the monsters they fight. Snake's ally is surprised at how well South Korea is defending itself. Snake says he foresaw Gu's defection back to Korea. Realizing the risk they are taking, Snake's ally decides to go and help the monsters. Like Kim Ki-bong, he takes to the air and heads out into the city. At this time, refugees in the city are trying to find shelter. A horde of monsters suddenly appears in front of them. They mercilessly attack people, devouring one after another. One of the monsters almost ate a civilian when the enemy was attacked by someone from the side. Park Tae-rim arrives to help the civilians. He announces that from now on, the Shield Guild will take responsibility for the defense of civilians. Snake's henchman arrives and addresses Park. Weapons open on his back and the man attacks with them. Park Tae-rim manages to block the attack with his sword. Park screams into the air, calling his enemy by the name of Petro. As soon as Petro lands on the ground, the Shield Guildmaster rushes to attack. Petro uses a magic dome to protect himself from Tairima Park. However, despite Petro's efforts, Park manages to break through his shield. Having successfully wounded his enemy, Park swings his sword, knocking Petro away. He rises with the help of his jetpack. Petro mentions Park's sister, and Park rushes into battle in anger. However, this time Park fails to break through Petro's protective dome. Petro suddenly thrusts his hand forward, right towards Park's face, and uses fire magic. Park Tae-rim takes the enemy by surprise by attacking them immediately after. The force of the attack is enough to throw Petro away. He modifies his program to effectively fight the Guildmaster. Away from the battle, Koo and Song-il discuss their recent meeting with Gu. Koo is sure that her sister would not have done such a thing without a good reason. Song-il, however, says that he understands this fact, and this makes him even more upset. Song bursts into tears at the realization that Gu is willing to sacrifice herself for the sake of the country's citizens. She stands up and declares that she must see with her own eyes what Gu is worried about. At this time, Sis asks Kim if he considers her a monster. Kim is surprised and asks why the system asks such questions. After telling her that he doesn't consider her a monster, they decide to continue on their way. Suddenly, she says that Kim Ki-bong was captured on the human broadcast network. She shows an image of Kim leading monsters. Realizing that this is just manipulation and trickery, Kim decides to put a firm end to the threat. Meanwhile, civilians watch the broadcast of Kim and blame him for all the problems. Citizens were divided into those who hate him, those who are in despair, and those who did not believe in the provocation. The colonel, like many of the soldiers, did not believe what was said on the air, because without Kim's help, they would already be dead. Sis suggests Kim to avoid crowded places due to the situation with the airwaves. He asks where Bong Soon and the others are now. Sis points in their direction, and after a while, she and Kim approach Bong Soon, Steve, and Ling Ling. The system uses special magic to make Kim appear to everyone else as a different person. After some time, they approach a checkpoint guarded by players. The man in front of them asks to see their ID cards. Sis uses magic to convince the player that everything is okay and the team passes the checkpoint. At this moment, Petro is fighting with Park Tae-rim. Despite increasingly stronger attacks, Park manages to survive and continue the fight. In midair, Park delivers a crushing blow to his enemy, severing half of his body. Park finishes off Petro and then listens to a report from one of his subordinates. He decides that he needs to personally check out the situation with Kim. Park explains that he wants to test exactly how close he has become in strength to Kim. The monster attacks continued unabated, and many of the citizens mourned the dead. One by one, they believe that Kim is the one who should be held responsible. At this moment, Kim and his team are taking a break from battle. Bong Soon asks Kim what he intends to do now. Kim says he will go to Incheon because he is worried about his mother. Everyone on the team is fully supportive of Kim, saying that he doesn't have to handle everything alone. Members of Thor's guild enter the establishment, and Yu-il, one of them, inspects the premises. He finds Kim and asks him to come with him. When Steve asks, he states that they received a message about suspicious people, and he is obliged to check it. Bong Soon tries to influence the situation by saying that he will not tolerate this kind of treatment. The system, however, says it will deal with it, but Kim stops her with a sharp movement of her hand. Kim rises from his chair and Yu-il feels his colossal aura. Kim asks why the soldier in front of him stood rooted to the spot. The protagonist uses his power and knocks down the soldier in front of him, saying that he might remember Kim because of this. A guild member recognizes him, saying that Kim is the one leading the monsters. Frightened, the guild members let him leave with his team. One of the men decides to take a risk and attack Kim from behind. The main character easily repels the attack of an ordinary person. With just his palm, he broke the attacker's sword into pieces. Kim says he's not hiding and they can find him at any time of the day. Bong Soon realizes that they are now in real trouble. At this time, Chun Yu-bin and Yui are sitting in one of the establishments, watching the broadcast about Kim. Chun says that Kim couldn't have done such a thing because he participated in the raid on Prozun. He admits he couldn't handle Kim in a fight. Yui and Cheon decide to hurry so that Kim's new opponents don't make any mistakes. At this moment, Akho enters the building and greets his girlfriend Yui. He wants to sit opposite her, but Chun doesn't let him do it. Cheon Yu-bin directly says that they need to hurry now. Yui asks Akho to help them, and he immediately agrees. At this moment, National Service agents are watching a streamer on the street who is looking for some evil spawn. They come down to him and tell him to go away. The streamer accuses them of government officials taking the stage as enemies. They try to take his phone away, but the streamer turns out to be a strong player, grabbing the man by the arm. The civil servant tries to hit the guy, which only brings anger upon himself. With a slight movement of his hand, the guy breaks the bone in his arm. After this, other intelligence officers rush to help. The guy easily throws aside all the people around him. Suddenly, he meets Kim Ki-bong's mother and approaches her, asking if her son lives here. In a panic, she asks what this man wants. He grabs Kim's mother by the hand, deciding to take her hostage. Suddenly, he loses his grip and flies into the air. He slowly gets up, realizing that it was because of the magical item. The boy lunges at Kim Ki-bong's mother, hoping to break some magical object. Suddenly, he loses sight of the woman and suddenly Kang Hui appears behind him. Seeing no danger in Kane, the boy rushes at him with his fists. Suddenly, the sacred animal attacks him, cutting his body with its claws. The attack sends the boy falling to the floor, deeply wounded by Khan's attack. The boy is unable to get up and examines his wounds with great pain. However, he slowly gets to his feet. Suddenly, he throws a smoke bomb under himself, disappearing from sight. The guy manages to break away, but two figures in cloaks appear behind him. They are disappointed and say that the guy's goal was just to provoke Kim. The guy starts making excuses, and people come up to him, saying that they will help with the battle. At this moment, Kang Hui and Kim's mother meet with the National Service Squad. They tell Kang Hui that they are grateful to him for teaching them. Kang smiles and says that first they need to calm Kim's mother down. After some time, the guy with whom he had fought approaches Khan, who is sitting on the roof of the house. Despite his wounds, he gives off an ominous and powerful aura. He jumps into the air with ease, intending to hit Kane. Kang Hui immediately notices that his enemy has started moving faster. The guy suddenly disappears and then appears right above Khan. The same two of Snake's subordinates watch the entire battle from the sidelines. Kim Ki-bong and the system suddenly appear behind them, asking who these people are. The two realize they have nowhere to go, so they attack the system. They quickly use the magic stone to teleport away. Many of Snake's assistants gather in one place. Two people in robes appear right in the hall and are asked why they used the teleportation stone. In a rush, one of them explains that they had to run into Kim, which shocks the questioner. The questioner says that it would be better for them to lay down their heads there, for he fears persecution. An emergency is declared and orders are given to take Snake and get away. A rift begins to open right behind them. Kim emerges from it with furious eyes, expanding the portal. Kim Ki-bong directly asks where Snake is now. At this moment, Snake sits alone in his office. He admits to himself that he did not foresee this situation. Snake rises from his chair and opens a portal in front of him. At this point, Snake's allies are doing everything they can to prevent Kim and Sis from getting through. However, Kim is not damaged by their attacks and passes through the portal. One of Snake's allies attempts to use a magic stone to stop time. He manages to stop time and everyone in the building freezes. The man takes a risk and plans to throw Kim back through the portal. Despite the time-stopping spell, Kim turns her head towards the man's hand. Suddenly, Kim Ki-bong grabs the man's hand. He squeezes his hands, forcing the man to throw away the magic stone. Kim takes the magic stone in her hand and squeezes it. The magic wears off and Kim asks again where Snake is now. He doesn't get an answer, so Sis searches with her magic. Sis says that Snake is hiding not in space, but in time. Finally, Snake himself emerges from the portal right in front of Kim. Suddenly, energy in the form of a blue hand rushes towards Kim and he blocks it. Snake addresses the system as if he already knows it. He says he had to do a lot of things to look after her. He openly talks about being a magician who controls time. Snake says he wants to remove the system and Kim to restore humanity's lost past. Kim simply states that Snake is talking complete nonsense and then rushes into the attack. Snake, however, simply rewinds time and avoids the blow. Snake uses his magic and traps Kim Ki-bong in his own past. On Snake's orders, prime ministers and high-ranking guild members appear in the room. After this, Snake gives them the order to kill the system. They rush into battle, but Kim Ki-bong suddenly appears and saves the system. Snake, shocked, asks how Kim was able to escape from his past. Kim only replies that he has already overcome his own past. In response, Snake offers Kim to help him and get rid of the system, but Kim resolutely and immediately refuses. The protagonist rushes into battle and the prime ministers use their spells to stop him. Kim Ki-bong manages to withstand each of the attacks. Next to attack is a martial artist who is strengthened by Snake, but the protagonist manages to fight him. All this time, the remaining prime ministers watch the battle, not daring to help in the battle. Kim asks his enemy to stop, saying that he is giving him a chance to escape alive. However, due to pride, the enemy only continues to attack. Kim throws his opponent away by punching him right in the face. The remaining enemies, who had not felt fear before, felt terror because of Kim. Snake admits that this was not his plan. By slamming his cane on the floor, Snake stops time for Kim and Sis. Not wanting to take any chances, as Kim was already emerging from the time freeze, Snake leaves with his allies. Kim Ki-bong suddenly approaches Snake from behind, grabbing him by the robe. The prime ministers and players try to help Snake, but the protagonist throws them into a portal. Snake slowly rises from his knees, saying that Kim always surprises him. Kim is about to hit Snake, but Snake travels through time along with Kim, forcing Sis to use similar magic as well. At this moment, Kang Hui continues to fight with his enemy. Kanu manages to dodge another blow, striking the enemy straight in the head. For the first time since his transformation, Khan's opponent is bleeding. The guy grabs Khan's shoulder and he releases his claws. He delivers several lightning-fast blows, cutting through his enemy's skin. The guy's chest, abs, and neck are cut very deeply. He falls to his knees in front of Kang Hui, bleeding. At this moment, Snake and Kim are in an unknown space. Upon seeing his enemy, Kim Ki-bong rushes straight towards him. He swings to strike, but Snake avoids the attack using time magic. However, Snake is surprised that Kim is able to move around in this space. The old man uses magic, summoning blue limbs that immobilize Kim. The main character easily tears them apart with his mighty strength. Realizing that normal monsters cannot stop Kim, Snake summons Prozon. Kim Ki-bong attacks without hesitation, killing the 8-star monster in one hit. Snake then summons 10 copies of Prozon, but Kim easily and quickly deals with them. Even when exposed to ice attacks from monsters, Kim crushes them into dust. Finally, the system comes to Kim Ki-bong's aid. In shock, Snake tries to escape from his own space. Once Snake is missing, the system suggests that Kim Ki-bong return. Kim asks Sis where they are now, and she says they are in a rift between dimensions. At this time, the head of the Blue Dragon Guild emerges from one of the portals. He says out loud that Snake is dead. The leader wonders where Gu Sengren might have gone. The man comes to the realization that the Prime Minister will definitely take revenge. He hears a sound behind him and summons daggers of magic. Snake himself slowly comes out to him. The man notes out loud that the old man survived, but Snake laughs and says that one is dead. He explains that in the timeline he died because of Kim. When asked by the guild leader, he says that he came from a different time period. Snake says he was the only one who could master time and space. However, the old man is confident that there is a way to defeat Kim Ki-bong. The Blue Dragon Guild leader agrees to obey Snake's orders. After this, Snake disappears from sight using magic. The guild master orders a meeting of all Blue Dragon members. At this moment, Kang Hui meets with Song-il and Ku. They ask Kan if he knows anything about who gave the orders to the guy who attacked him. Instead of answering, Kan points to Kim and the system who have approached. Kim approaches Ku, who asks if they have ever met. Kang approaches Kim and says that he protected his house. In response, the protagonist praises the sacred animal, stroking its hair. Kim asks Kang if he knows him, to which Kang only shakes his head from side to side. After this, he invites everyone gathered to go into the house. At this time, the funeral of the man who attacked Kim is taking place in France. 2 members of the French Foreign Legion are talking about the death of this man named Henri. The man says that it was not a monster but a man who killed Henri. Shedding tears, the girl says that she will definitely avenge him. However, the man forbids her, because she will never be able to defeat the one who was able to defeat Henri. After this, she rips off her pogo and announces that she is resigning. Watching her go, the man notices that everything is happening according to someone's will. At Kim Ki-bong's house, all the heroes meet at one table. For the first time in a long time, they are able to have a snack in peace. Song-il breaks the silence by asking Kim who he even is. In response, Kim asks why the whole world is targeting him, to which Ku responds that they are looking for the answer themselves. Bong soon defends his brother, saying that he did nothing wrong. However, Kim makes a calming gesture to her sister. Ku suggests that everyone move to a safer place, because the coordinates of this house have been revealed. Song-il suggests that Kim hide inside the magic tower. Kim, however, says she won't run away. In parallel, Snake meets with the escaped prime ministers and players. They are all very excited about the events that have taken place. They have a lot of questions because they all thought Snake was killed. Suddenly, one of the players attacks Snake. A female player joins him, summoning ghostly monsters. Snake easily creates a protective barrier, protecting himself from attacks. After this, the old man uses magic that deprives the players of mana. A copy of Snake appears, saying that he will reveal the truth about this world. More and more versions of Snake appear on the battlefield. He says that their world has been destroyed and that they will never fail again. He concludes that they will definitely kill Kim, even if they have to make a deal with the devil. At this time, a girl from France arrives at the airport with a team to take revenge on Henri. Gu Sengren communicates with his subordinates, asking about the president's condition. According to the president himself, told earlier to his entourage, he headed to the bunker. Gu's assistant says that due to the large influx of people coming into the country, they are proposing to block entry. At this moment, Park Tae-rim leads the Shield Guild. Arriving at Kim Ki-bong's house, Park gives orders to the guild members to defend the place. One of Park's subordinates looks back in the direction where the people who wanted to attack the house were a second ago. Kim Ki-bong comes out to them, confirming Park's words that Kim does not need protection. Some of the people around call Kim an enemy of humanity and rush into battle. Kim easily throws them into the air with her punch. With one blow, he managed to take the lives of several dozen players. After this, Park Tae-rim comes close to Kim. He tells Kim not to worry about his family members and tells him to go where Kim is going. Kim walks forward a little, seeing an angry crowd of people in front of him. They shout that they will save humanity by killing Kim. Kim calls upon the system, which stops the attackers. She transports herself, Kim, and the people who want to kill him to a remote location. Deciding that there will be no civilian casualties, the French players rush into battle. After a slight hesitation, Kim swings his fist with all his strength. Kim's blow breaks the ground around him. Once the smoke clears, Kim sees his opponents lying on the ground. The girl who wanted to avenge Henri calls Kim evil and an enemy. As soon as she loses consciousness, it starts to rain. Kim turns to Snake, suspecting that he is nearby. At this time, Park draws a line in front of Kim's house, saying that he will kill anyone who crosses it. People are indignant, asking why the Shield of Korea is protecting a traitor. Park calls the recent broadcast about Kim complete nonsense. He says Kim has fought many more enemies than he has. The players, however, do not retreat, but continue to threaten the Shield Guild. The man calls Park an enemy of humanity. The players go on the attack, and the Shield Guild, led by Park, fights back. The male player genuinely doesn't understand why Park goes so far. Park just says he knows more than everyone else. Bong Soon and Song-il, while in the basement, notice a noise outside. Kim's mother suggests going out and checking, but Kang Hui says he'll check things out himself. Kim asks Snake how he managed to escape death. The old man replies that he will not die until he kills the main character. Finally, multiple copies of Snake from the timeline materialize in front of Kim. They use a powerful time spell and Kim and Sis freeze. Sis, however, awakens from the magic and summons a protective barrier. Sis's actions destroy the time magic, thereby freeing Kim. But the Snake copies again use spells to stop the flow of time. This time, Kim manages to overcome such magic on his own. He attacks the snake copies with all his might. There is no trace left of them after Kim Ki-bong's blow. At this time, one of the copies is in an unknown room. He is met by Gu Sengren, who asks if Snake was right. In response, he says that it doesn't matter whether he was right or not. He says that what was shown has already happened. Snake uses magic to demonstrate Gu as Park and the Shield Guild fight the players. The old man says that Gu must know who Kim Ki-bong and the system are. According to Snake, they have already destroyed several worlds, and this timeline is the only one in which humans thrive. However, Gu is determined to stop Snake, as she has seen with her own eyes how Kim saves people. At this moment, Jot-Rez is in orbit around the sun. He says out loud that Kim's choice will once again lead to the destruction of humanity. Park Taram gives the order that it is allowed to kill players who attack them. The Shield Guild accepts the order and rushes into battle. A brutal battle ensues, with players dying at the hands of guild members. In a panic, one of the players orders a retreat. Even though the players have retreated, Park knows this is just the beginning. The leader of the American Guild, Raspel, appears behind him. Using her staff, Kellen summons an earthquake. Park Taram tries to hit her with his sword but loses the weapon. At this point, the system invites Kim to return to their home. Kim asks to show her universe of other dimensions. He wants to know if Snake's words are true or not. After some hesitation, the system agrees to look into other worlds. She says that she has never used such magic, but now that the system has been restored, she can do it. After some time, they find themselves in a space from where they can access other dimensions. With its finger, the system points to the timeline behind it. Together, they look into one of the worlds during the first appearance of monsters. They notice Kim Ki-bong, who has not yet gained his powers. In this world, Kim was not killed, but immediately found himself in a training space. Kim orders the system to move to the point of destruction, where life ceases to exist. Seeing the history of the world, the system concludes that here he was unable to save his mother from the monster's attack. After a short time, Kim tells Sis that she wants to see other worlds. She sees what is happening and cannot believe that everything was actually destroyed by Kim. She also notes that in no other world has she seen that she was able to acquire a body. They find themselves in another world, where they see a copy of the system, which pays attention to them. A second later, copies of the main characters fly up into the air towards them. The copy of Kim asks where they came from in their world. Without waiting for an answer, the copy of Kim rushes into attack. Despite the system's agitation, Kim encounters her double. The impact causes both of them to lose parts of their clothes. Kim's copy claims he was too bored. Kim tries to find out why his copy did this to this world. However, the copy is surprised that Kim does not know the reasons for the actions. A couple of minutes later, Kim and Sis are thrown out of this timeline. The system embraces Kim and invites him to return back to their reality. At this time, members of the Shield Guild provide assistance to the wounded people. Suddenly, copies of Snake appear in the sky in front of Taram Park. Park immediately orders the entire guild to prepare for battle. Unexpectedly, Snake praises them, saying that they are great. Snake says that they will all die and summons a portal using magic. Numerous monsters instantly emerge from the portals, attacking people. Park bravely leads his soldiers into battle, trying to kill as many monsters as possible. Suddenly, one of the monsters dies, splitting into different parts. The guild members notice Kang Hui, who has entered the battle on the human side. He goes on the attack, killing monsters with his sharp claws. The Snake copies simultaneously summon rockfall magic. Seeing falling chunks of earth, Park orders his allies to take cover. Together with Kang Hui, he flies up into the air, intending to cut through the flying projectiles. Someone summons a protective dome to hide all civilians from attacks. The magician who summoned the protective magic turns out to be Song Il, the head of the magic tower. A creature resembling a knight appears from one of the portals. Park recognizes the monster, calling it the Black Knight and saying that it is a threat level 8. A moment later, the Black Knight attacks Park Taram. At the last moment, the Shield Guild leader manages to block the blow with his sword. He shouts Kang Hui's name, calling for help. Khan transforms into the form of a sacred animal and attacks the Black Knight with his claws. A fierce battle begins between the heroes and the knight. At this time, a portal begins to open behind one of the Shield Guild members. Tired and exhausted, Park Taram and Kang Hui go on the attack once again. The Black Knight is faster and grabs Khan by his throat. He aims his sword at Kane when suddenly he loses his head. In an instant, Kim rushed through the knight, cutting off his head. Park Taram meets Kim Ki-bong's gaze. Suddenly, the knight's headless body rises to its feet. Park orders all allies to retreat, for if they are drawn into the fight, they will die. After waiting for the people to go as far away as possible, Kim enters into battle with the knight. The ground beneath Park and Khan is destroyed by the main character's blows. The impact causes the knight's body to crumble to dust, and Kim approaches his remains. Snake tells Kim that he is doing all this for the greater good. Snake pits players against the protagonist, convincing them that the protagonist is evil. Kim Ki-bong raises his arm to strike, but is interrupted by Gu Seng-reng's voice. The Prime Minister, who arrived with reinforcements, says that all foreigners will be expelled from South Korea. However, Snake tells the players that Gu and her allies are also on the side of the monsters. The players, however, refuse the old man, which irritates him. The snake copies use mind control magic to subjugate normal players. Gu tries to create an anti-magic zone to avoid being hypnotized. With her actions, she saves Yui and the other heroes from Snake's magic. However, she fails to save most of the players. Cheon, Yubin, and some allies go into battle first. Kim, on the other hand, heads straight for Snake, intending to finish this as quickly as possible. One of the copies of Snake attempts to use mind control magic on the protagonist. However, Kim Ki-bong easily repels this attack. Kim asks Snake why he doesn't run away from him. Snake does not give an exact reason, saying that he will do everything to stop Kim Ki-bong. However, Kim uses a long-range strike to blow away the torso of each of his enemy's copies. Slowly, the players come to their senses after the mind control magic. Kim passes by Gu Sengren and she thanks him after asking for forgiveness. Kim says that if she wants to apologize, she should find the remaining copies of Snake. Gu Sengren appears before all the heroes who have been looking for her all this time. Gu boldly says that her citizens are more important than any other cause, and that in doing so, she chooses her side. She materializes a sword and says that they will protect this place at all costs. Gu realizes that the fate of the world is once again in the hands of Kim Ki-bong. While in the mountains, one of Snake's copies says out loud that the plan has failed again. Another copy states that all their comrades are dead, and only the two of them are left. Snake decides that if they can't save the world from Kim, they'll destroy the world entirely. However, the copy only asks what he means. Seeing Snake using magic, the copy rushes out to stop him. This does not happen, and a huge red beam shoots into the sky. The Snake copy asks what dimension he just opened. Receiving no response, the copy pierces the body of the other Snake copy with his staff. Before dying, the creature says that it is useless and the world will still be engulfed in flames. A heavy rain begins to fall from the sky. At this time, Gu Sengren speaks to reporters declaring martial law. She makes a statement that all foreign players must leave South Korea. Reporters are trying to find out how such orders are connected with recent events. At this moment, a red portal appears in the sky above the civilians. Similar portals are appearing in many places in Korea. The Shield Guild members are surprised that no one has emerged from the portal yet. The system talks to Kim and offers to return his memory so that humanity will remember his merits. She suggests to Kim not to help people at all, but he asks her to put such thoughts aside. The system leaves Kim's house but is observed by Jot Rez. She uses invisibility magic to move around the city. Suddenly, Jot Rez lands right in front of her, stunning the bystanders around her. They turn around and however do not notice anything at all, because the monster is also invisible. The system asks Jot Rez what he is doing here, as if it already knows him. In response, the creature only says that the end is approaching. The system asks the being to speak binary code and communicates with it in this way. After a short dialogue, Jot Rez turns around and walks away. He says out loud that the settings have been reset. Moments later, there is no trace left of the monster. Sis realizes that Jot Rez is just continuing to cause unnecessary trouble for Kim Ki-bong. At this time, Kim Ki-bong gathers with his allies in his house. Kang Hui offers to use his skills to find Snake. Bong soon asks Kim if he knows Kang, and Steve remarks that they seem like friends. Kim understands that they won't understand anything, so she simply agrees. After this, he says that he too will step away for a while. Before this, he asks his sister to stay in the house, as it is dangerous outside. Meanwhile, a copy of Snake wanders the desert alone. He ponders over possible ways to destroy Kim Ki-bong. Snake realizes that his own self tried to destroy the world, which he regrets. Not knowing what to do, he falls to his knees and screams into the void. Suddenly, he notices a large red dot in the sky. The light flies straight towards Snake, forcing him to cover his body. As the smoke clears, Snake sees Jot Rez appear in front of him. The old man asks why he appeared only now. Snake says they have one will, and Jot Rez agrees, saying they must kill everyone. However, the creature says it is unable to do so, and Snake says he knows this. Jot Rez says that Snake could be the key to this, surprising the old man. However, the monster grabs Snake by the head with its powerful paw. He lifts Snake into the air, and the veins on the old man's body begin to appear. Slowly, he transforms Snake's body into a monster. Jot Rez orders the newly minted monster to become the key to misfortune. At this moment, Kang Hui continues his search. He is assisted by some other sacred animals. Finally, he and his allies arrive in the desert. They notice a large fog in the distance and decide that they definitely need to check the area. Not wanting to wait long, Kang Hui and his troop of sacred animals rush forward. One of the animals suggests that Kang Hui tell the human about everything, doubting that they can handle it on their own. Kang Hui, however, has no doubts in himself or his allies. Then one of the animals asks why Kim erased the memories of all the people, but did not erase the memories of the sacred animals. With a smile, Kang admits that he doesn't know that this is Kim Ki-bong's will. Suddenly, a creature appears in front of Kang Hui and knocks him off his feet. The team slows down and sees a golem of impressive size in front of them. The sacred animals are surprised that they met a monster here. The golem talks to them, saying that they will not be able to pass. Kang Hui suddenly rises from the ground, wiping his chin. He charges at the monster while one of the sacred beasts tries to stop him. With his claws, he cuts the body of the summoned monster into many pieces. However, this does not kill the creature at all. Stepping back, Kang Hui notices that there are now 2 golems. The team realizes that they need to destroy the golem's core, or it will continue to multiply. After some time of fighting, Kang Hui finds the core and takes it into his hand. He squeezes the core, crushing it into powder between his fingers. However, due to Khan's actions, too many new golems appeared. Khan changes his form, saying that now these creatures can simply be smashed to dust. The sacred animals agree with him, and together they go on the attack. At this time, Snake, transformed into a monster, sits on one of the stones. He tells himself that the answer to how to avoid the destruction of the world was so close. Snake decides that if everything is destroyed by him, then Kim and Sis will have nothing to destroy. He senses the approach of the sacred animals and raises his hand. Snake calls upon a powerful spell, causing a meteor shower to rain down upon the earth. Each fallen rock turns into a flaming monster. Snake also summons other monsters that emerged from the tornado he created. After this, he gives the order to the creatures to go forward and sow destruction. Kang Hui hears what is happening with his keen hearing. He turns his head and sees tornadoes approaching. Inside the vortex, he notices a monster that seems quite strong to him. One of the sacred animals suggests that the team escape. Unexpectedly, a flustered Kang Hui agrees to escape, shaking his head. However, at this moment, Ku, Song-il, Yui, and Akho arrive at the scene and decide to fight the monsters. They meet up with Kang Hui's squad, and Ku suggests that they call Kim Ki-bong. However, she immediately suggests that they test their own strength at least once. With enthusiasm, the newly formed squad sets off into battle. At this time, Sis is alone on the playground, sitting on a swing. Kim approaches her, asking if she has let off steam. She says yes, but she is surprised that Kim did not ask her where the system went. He says directly that he has no intention of asking her about it. However, Kim wonders where everyone else is now. Sis says that many, including Kang Hui, left the place. According to her, they want to help Kim Ki-bong at all costs. Kim voices his suspicions that Kang Hui has not lost his memory. After thinking for a while, the system agrees with the protagonist's conclusions. Kim Ki-bong says it would be interesting to know who was able to retain the memories and why. Sis says that she intentionally left Gu with memories, which surprises Kim. Sis just says she had no other choice. Just in case, the protagonist asks again whether Sis has anything to do with other memory anomalies. The girl claims that she is not responsible for this. She does, however, offer to return some of the memories to people so that they can remember how events unfolded. Kim replies that there is no need for that. After talking a little more, the main character decides to leave Sis alone. The heroes in the desert continue to fight against countless hordes of monsters. More and more meteorites fall from the sky onto them, turning into fire golems. One of the sacred animals suggests that Kang Hui retreat, as his strength is running out. Kang Hui tries to boost the team's morale and support them. Kan asks Ku to show her abilities. She uses her magic bracelet to cast a spell on the divine beasts. All of them receive a special boost aura that increases their power. Having been charged with energy from the bracelet, Kan smirks and suggests returning to the battle. The sacred animals rush forward without a moment's delay, intending to defeat the monsters. At this point, Snake alone calls the monsters fighting against him enemies of humanity. He says that now that he has become the key, he needs to destroy them all. Snake sends more monsters at his opponents. Seeing what is happening, Song-il decides that they need to hurry. Kan asks Ku to work a little more and give the divine beasts more energy. Ku agrees, but thinks to herself that the divine beast already knew about her abilities. Once the divine beasts go into battle, the rest of the team will provide support with their forces. Yui summons the strongest fire magic to destroy the enemy. Meanwhile, Ak, fearing nothing, rushes into the midst of the monsters and inflicts injuries on them with his spear. In turn, Prime Minister Gu Sengren is in the city. She orders her ward to continue searching for Snake in order to give his coordinates to the protagonist. After sending the girl to carry out the order, Gu continues to observe the city. At this time, a red portal opens over Gyeonggi City and civilians see it on the news. The military arrives at the scene to help civilians. The commander of the troops complains that there is not a single calm day. He orders his forces to protect civilians. The heroes in the desert continue to fight the monsters that Snake summoned. Through teamwork, they manage to hold back the enemy's onslaught. A tired Akho notices that there is no end to the enemies. Ku still continues to support the powers of the divine beasts. However, Kang Hui looks at her and says that her efforts are enough. Ku agrees, deciding that she needs to take a breather and regain her strength. One of the divine animals again suggests that Kang Hui retreat, saying that everyone is exhausted. Khan continues to press his point, saying that they need to find Snake. Exhausted from the battle, Song-il agrees with him. Khan assures that Snake is somewhere nearby and they just need to move forward a little. Meanwhile, Snake himself leads his personal army of monsters. Kang Hui and the other divine beast notice the threat while hiding on the hill. Khan becomes distracted, and when he looks at Snake again, he notices that the creature that was walking behind him has disappeared. Suddenly, the creature appears in the sky above the team. Kang Hui realizes that they were all discovered in the blink of an eye. Song-il, realizing that there is no point in hiding anymore, takes out a magic sphere to contact Kim. However, she doesn't have time to do anything, as the creature ends up behind her. The creature grabs the girl's hand, knocking the sphere out of her grasp. With the last of her strength, the girl screams, trying to summon a lightning spell. A circle forms in the sky, from which lightning strikes the creature. However, it does not cause any harm to the enemy. Akho, together with the sacred animals, attacks the enemy from behind. With their attacks, they wound the enemy's torso. However, the enemy does not show that he feels pain and attacks Akho. The player fails to dodge and is sent flying a long distance due to the impact. A moment later, the enemy seems to teleport behind the backs of the sacred animals. It is extremely rare to see one monster attack all enemies at once. Ku concludes that such a monster has no less than 8 danger stars. The system is located next to Kim's house, as a portal opens next to it. At the same second, Song-il is thrown out of the portal, covered in wounds from the battle with monsters. She tells the system that they have managed to find Snake's coordinates and asks them to pass them on to Kim. Suddenly, the system asks why it should transmit anything. This answer causes genuine shock in Song-il. The system says that at this rate, Kim will have to suffer again for the sake of the people. She assumes that everything is on the verge of death and says that nothing can be done. With a wave of her hand, she opens a portal right in front of her. Song-il wanted to say something, but Sis only told her to follow her. At this time, Kang Hui is holding on with his last strength on the battlefield. The monster that had previously beaten Song-il attacks him, but the creature is stopped by a devastating attack from the side. The system arrives on the battlefield with Song-il. She wonders how it was possible not to deal with just one opponent. Song-il, seeing this, is sincerely amazed by such powerful magic. She also notices that the system uses magic without any item and without casting a spell. Having recovered, the enemy viciously attacks the system. However, by raising just one finger, she powerfully pushes the opponent away from herself. The monster's body is again damaged in various places. She orders the creature to sit still. Unable to resist Sis's magic, the creature falls to its knees. The system slowly and leisurely approaches the defeated enemy. She asks the creature to tell her who gave him this form. Receiving no answer from the monster, she turns away in disappointment. After moving a short distance, she summons a huge hammer of energy that falls on the enemy. The team of heroes has to cover themselves from a powerful blow. They see that a huge crater is formed at the place where the hammer struck. The system turns around, cheerfully asking who's next in line. The players and the divine beasts look at the system with a look of surprise and fear. Kang Hui says that even though the system is strong, Kim Ki-bong must be here. However, Sis states that calling Kim for such a thing is the height of tactlessness. She orders them not to waste time and to pick up Snake's trail. The team moves forward, searching for Snake and killing enemies along the way. She points to the top of the tornado, saying that Snake is there. Kan confirms her words, saying that the smell is coming from there. Song-il suggests that the system approach the enemy once the team has been permanently restored. The system turns around and says that there is no point in this, because the players will be of no use. Players are left to accept her harsh words as Sis approaches the tornado. She orders Snake to stop sending his pawns, dispelling the tornado with her spell. A changed Snake appears before the system, causing fear in the players around him. Snake spreads his arms, emitting a strange red aura around him. The aura knocks away all players and divine beasts. Only the system manages to stand firm without moving a single step. Snake only defiantly tells Sis to try and stop him. The monster summons a huge flame, directing it at the girl. Sis easily summons a protective dome that protects her from the fire. She claims that such trivial magic does not work on her. In response, she summons an even larger pillar of fire, which she uses to attack the monster-turned-snake. Due to the extreme amount of fire, Snake covers his face with his hands. Snake tries to attack the system, but it stops time and approaches its enemy closely. The monster becomes enraged because Snake himself is a time mage. The system says that Snake will be trapped in time forever, experiencing extreme pain. She says that in 5,000 years they will meet again if Snake is still alive. Snake is sucked into the portal, and the system triumphantly declares that the enemy has been defeated. A moment later, Jot-Rez impales System's body with his massive hand. Jot refers to the system as a homunculus, saying that it locked itself in this place with its own hands. The system's eyes light up blue and there is a huge flash of the same color. Sun and Yui are forced to use defensive magic to avoid being harmed by the blue energy. Their barrier crumbles, and Sun is once again amazed by the power of the system's magic. Jot-Rez says that he overestimated the system rank level from SS to SS. He estimates his chances of winning at 99.8%. Immediately after this, Jot-Rez jumps into the air, intending to attack the system. He attacks, but the girl uses a protective dome to avoid damage. She orders Jot-Rez to come down to Earth, saying that no one allowed him to be above her. Immediately after this, the monster's body falls to the ground due to the system's magic. Jot-Rez deliberately alters gravity to escape the system's control. Realizing that magic has no effect on the monster, the system uses its own powers to lift up the Earth in whole stones. Yui, Sun, and the other players are forced to try to survive on their own. Sis rains down a hail of rocks from the sky on Jot-Rez. However, the enemy remains unharmed, easily surviving attacks from rocks and boulders. He says he was waiting for the moment when the system and Kim would separate, so she wouldn't be able to escape. She logically states that Jot-Rez is apparently afraid of the protagonist, but the monster counters, saying that everything has its own turn. The system orders players to evacuate, leaving them confused. And Kang Hui cries out, suggesting that they fight together. But the system firmly states that the presence of players and divine beasts will only interfere. At this moment, Jot rises above the ground and flies straight towards the system. She tries to block the blow, but suddenly the monster flies over her. Sis increases gravity to prevent Jot from harming any of the players. However, the monster only says that he has become immune to such system magic. Ho suddenly declares out loud that he does not mind giving up his life for Yue. He prepares to use a technique to seal himself and the monster in a pocket dimension. But doesn't have time to do anything before Kim arrives on the field and attacks the monster. With a powerful blow, the protagonist throws his enemy away. Kim asks the system if she is okay. She says yes and asks Kim to be extremely careful. The main character only asks if she is saying such words to him, because he is extremely powerful. The system quickly corrects itself and jokingly says that it is the monster that needs to be careful. In response, Kim Ki-bong only smirks, then turns away from the monster. Jotrez realizes that his limit of resistance to physical force has been exceeded and he can no longer fight. Kim Ki-bong instantly rushes towards his enemy. He tries to hit Jot with all his might, but he only runs away, raising his body up. A red portal opens behind the monster, into which he escapes. After the portal is closed, Kim's hand enters it. The protagonist grabs his enemy by the throat, squeezing it. Without holding back, Kim pulls Jotrez back to Earth through the portal. He takes one last look at the monster before striking it. Kim's attack causes the monster to fall to the ground, raising a large pile of dust. Kim has no intention of stopping and is speeding up to finish off Jot. The monster fails to defend itself, and Kim's blow lands right on its body. The force of the blow causes the ground to shake and crumble under the feet of the divine beasts and players. A huge crater is formed at the site of the impact. The system suggests that Jotrez appears to have escaped. However, Kim claims he felt like he had hit his opponent. A second later, he turns to the system and asks how her body is. She admits that her body is a little sore from Jotrez's blow. The system grabs its head and says that it is feeling sleepy. The protagonist tells Kang Hui, who has come up, to take the system and deliver it home. Kan enthusiastically agrees, promising to deliver Sis safe and sound. Afterwards, Kim approaches Song-il, asking her to track down Jotreza. After thinking for a while, Song-il agrees to help the main character. Kim Ki-bong orders everyone else to return to his house, saying that the enemy is too tough for them. At this moment, a new horde of monsters appears on the earth. At the same time, monsters also appear underwater. Jotrez's remains are consumed by the flames that surround his body. At this time, martial law is declared in South Korea. Song-il says that the monsters appeared because of Snake, who himself turned into a monster. According to Sun, Snake sincerely believed that his actions would save humanity. Kim Ki-bong asks why Song didn't join Snake's side when she saw the future. She says that intuition allowed her to understand that this path was wrong. Finally, the girl declares that she has managed to find Jotrez. Kim asks to be taken to his destination, but Song explains that due to martial law, teleportation cannot be used. Song-il suggests using the system's help, because she is a very powerful magician. Kim, however, says that the system is being restored and she won't be able to help. As a result, the heroes decide to use public transport. Kim looks out the window and suddenly notices a whole swarm of monsters. The driver tells passengers to evacuate immediately. As he exits the vehicle, Kim asks what the magic tower does anyway. The dream says that it is a community of wizards, which includes a large number of mages who share their knowledge and eliminate threats in the world. Kim sees a crying child next to her and takes the candy from him. He throws the candy into the air with great force. It pierces the monster's body through and through, scattering the enemy into pieces. The citizens are in shock and sincerely rejoice at the death of the monster. After some time, while on the bus, Song turns his attention to Kim, saying that he has become unaccustomed to riding on such transport. Kim agrees, saying his memories of such trips are so old they are just blurs. Song-il is surprised by his words, thinking that Kim travels in his own car all the time. A few moments later, she asks Kim where he met with the system. The girl admits that she would like to get to know Sis better. Kim tells her to come to him and he will arrange a meeting for them. After some time, Song and Kim arrive at an unknown mountain. Song-il remarks that this is a good place to hide from prying eyes. She uses wind magic to scan the area. After a moment, she points to a specific spot where Jotrez might be hiding. The girl suggests using a flight spell, but Kim grabs her by the waist. A second later, they soar upward, breaking away from the ground. The head of the magic tower points out that this is not magic at all. They fly straight towards the mountain where the enemy signature was spotted. A minute later, they descend into the mouth of a mountain where there is no one. Sun, however, is confident that their enemy is here. Kim Ki-bong suggests that their enemy may be down below. After this, the main character suddenly jumps into the air. He gathers his strength and rushes straight to the surface of the crater, intending to break through it. To protect himself from the blast wave, Sun uses a magical dome. With his fist, Kim Ki-bong drills a tunnel to the very bottom. Right behind him, Song-il descends at a rapid pace using hover magic. Kim stands on a rock that looks like the shore of a lava sea. He asks Song if their enemy is here, and the girl confirms his words. Kim asks how to get the monster out of the lava, but Song says she is powerless. The protagonist then realizes that their only option is to force Jot-Rez to leave the magma. After this, Kim uses physical enhancement and remotely strikes the magma. After many blows, the magma dissipates and a monster appears before the heroes. Jot-Rez removes all his limitations and attacks Kim Ki-bong. Kim is able to block and intercept his enemy's attacks with ease. Then Jot suddenly rises into the air towards the opening to the tunnel. Kim doesn't hesitate and jumps up, intending to catch up with his opponent. Jot tries to convince Kim that if he continues to try to kill him now, it will lead to a crisis in this dimension. However, Kim does not want to listen to his enemy and does not stop. He quickly approaches Jot-Rez and strikes him straight in the torso. After this, the monster's body flies far into the air. The force of the impact is so monstrous that Jot's body is sent into space. He is in orbit and his torso is pierced through. Kim Ki-bong, while on the ground, attacks the monster from a distance. After that, he asks Song-il to find the enemy again using detection magic. Kim is confident that their enemy is not dead yet, for he will not let Jot die so easily. In space, Jot-Rez leans against the solar panel of one of the satellites. Sun conducts a search and says that she has successfully found the enemy. She closes her eyes and says that she will carry out the attack herself. However, Kim stops her, declaring that he will take care of it himself. He forms a spear out of blue energy and prepares to throw it. Before this, he asks the head of the magic tower to tell him the exact coordinates of the enemy. Song-il nods and uses his magic to create a mark in the air. Finally, taking aim, the protagonist throws the spear straight at the target. Realizing that the attack cannot be avoided, Jot-Rez activates the emergency protection. However, Kim Ki-bong's spear breaks through the barrier and goes straight through the monster. Jot's body, burning from the attack, begins to fall to the surface of the earth. It falls right next to the hovering Kim Ki-bong and Song-il. The smoke from the fall clears, and the heroes approach the monster lying in the crater. Kim asks what Jot's true nature is, and he says that he is the balance of the world, destroying unnecessary things. Kim then asks where he was when people were dying, to which Jot replies that he shouldn't have done that. The protagonist asks why the monster needed the death of the system. Jot-Rez explains that this too was done in order to balance the world before it fell apart. Finally, Kim asks the final question: has the protagonist stepped on the scales of balance? But Jot explains that Kim Ki-bong is outside the standard, and because of him, the whole balance was upset. Clenching his fist, the protagonist intends to take revenge on the monster for the system. Then Jot tries to convey that his death will destroy this world, but Kim states that it is no longer his concern. He confidently and immediately attacks the monster's body. Song-il is genuinely surprised that a person can have such strength and power. At this time, the system is in Kim's house, lying in bed. She comes to and sees that Bong-soon is courting her. The system admits that this was the first time she was close to death while with Kim. Sis says he feels like Kim has figured things out, but he still feels uncomfortable. Afterwards, she covers herself with a blanket and asks Bong-soon to wake her up when Kim returns. At this moment, in a certain ruined city, two copies of Kim Ki-bong meet. After a short conversation, a fight begins between them. At this time, Song and Kim are returning back by bus. Later, they finally arrive home where they are greeted by the rest of the heroes. Kim notices the strange expressions on their faces and asks what happened. Bong-soon confesses, saying that the system's condition has worsened. Kim refuses to believe this, because in his opinion, the attack on her was not strong enough. After this, Kim firmly tells all the heroes to go to her with him. They approach the body of the system, which in delirium calls the protagonist by name. Song-il offers his assistance in inspecting the system. She uses her magic to perform a very detailed scan of the body. Suddenly, strange black smoke begins to leave the system's body. Then Sun cries out that she has found a magical power of an unknown nature that is tormenting Sis. She tries to save the girl from this, but she fails. Kim firmly demands the head of the magic tower to deal with this. The dream says that no one should enter this room, because there is a risk of being drawn into the magical flow. After some time, Kim is standing on the roof of her house and it starts to rain. His sister comes up to him, covers him with an umbrella, and asks why he is standing alone. In her mind, she notices that Kim looks very lonely. She tells her brother that he looks very worried, to which Kim asks if it is very noticeable from the outside. Then the sister admits that she has never seen Kim like this, and asks how important the system is to him. Bong-soon remarks that Sis is a great magician, but her brother interrupts her, saying that it doesn't matter. Kim only says that when Bong-soon finds out everything herself, her reaction will be the same. The main character says that everything will end soon, and suddenly a large black smoke appears in front of him. Kang Hui and Ah-ho rush to the scene with lightning speed. Kim turns to Bong-soon, who has fallen over in fear, and apologizes for not being able to control his power. Suddenly, a strange beam of light covers Kim and Bong-soon, after which the brother tells everyone to come back. Many players, such as Cheon Yu-bin and Gu Seng-ryong, notice the beam appearing from afar. Meanwhile, in another place, the fight between Kim Ki-bong's two spears came to an end. It turned out that the large-scale beam was summoned by the head of the magic tower. She is focused on trying to improve the state of the system. The players watch her excitedly from behind the barrier. Kang Hui is surprised that he is shaking, since he is a sacred animal. Ku suggests that since Sis is not human, she is a divine beast, but Khan denies this. Kang Hui understands to himself that the system, like Kim, is much older than him. He confidently says that the system will simply shake off all the dirt from itself and wake up. Suddenly, Song-il squints and coughs up an unknown black substance. She says out loud that she managed to do it, and then falls to the ground. The heroes try to help the girl, but the barrier stops them. Bong soon wants to call Kim, but Kang stops her, then transforming into his beast form. However, he is unable to even touch the barrier. Then Ku decides to help him, and Kang Hui manages to pass his hand through the obstacle. He slowly lifts Song-il's head, telling her that she did a great job. After this, Kang asks Bong soon to call his brother. After some time, Kim Ki-bong examines Song-il. She says she found a way, but Kim suddenly asks who Kim needs to kill. The players were shocked, and Song-il asks them all to leave. After this, she tells Kim that foreign energy began to penetrate her body. She says that in order to patch up the body of the system, it needs certain ingredients. The ingredients turn out to be items that drop from monsters that she is unable to hunt. Kim agrees and asks the girl to protect the system until he returns. At this moment, the Air Force Control Center notices an unknown object that is rapidly approaching. The observer says that the object is flying from land towards the monster. Kim Ki-bong rushes straight towards the sea monster. In an attempt to defend itself, the monster forms a projectile of water in its mouth. However, Kim Ki-bong completely ignores this attack, tearing the monster apart with his own blow. At the observation point, they notice that the signature of the water monster has disappeared. However, the point unknown to them continues to approach the observation center.